And we need to bring people into the area. Because if you get rid of them, what have you accomplished?
Then the fun part would be, are you able to build this building and this building? Obviously, because of drainage, I know the way it goes, et cetera, et cetera. Are you able to build this one and this one? Like this in
No.
place? Yep. Now, these folks have a brand new beautiful building to move into, and we've got 12 storefronts instead of, you know what I mean? It's kind of necessary.
Yeah, EC meeting for 24 January 2024 to order. Please stand, pledge allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Rain is on, yes.
Noreen, could we please have a roll call of the
Surely.
commissioners? Thank you, Noreen.
You're welcome. Commissioner Claffey,
Here.
Commissioner Minor,
Here.
Commissioner Nathis, Commissioner Payne,
Here.
Commissioner Pascarelli, Chairman Sobieski,
Here.
Commissioner Woods,
He is online.
okay, Commissioner Droz,
Here.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Here.
You're all set.
Thank you. I'd like to seat Commissioner Hoffman for Commissioner Nathis, who is not here. Please make that note. Okay, Mr. Planner, approval of the agenda.
Yep, so I have one recommended item as far as the order of the agenda. I'm recommending that the order of business be modified to move item 9, old business, ahead of item 8, new business, and then switch those around. So again, new business would become item 9, old business would become item 8, and that requires a vote of the commission.
Second, or I make a motion that we,
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And then the one other item on the agenda, and this is just kind of a clarification for the public. So for public comment regarding general development in the town center, it is requested to be held and addressed under item 13, public participation, and comment under proposed development for 103 and 175 Lowry Place will be permitted only under item 13, public comment after the agenda item is completed. So again, that is towards the end of the meeting, but there will be public comment allowed in that per the chairman.
Thank you. Okay, next is going to be public participation for items not listed on the agenda. Okay. Any remarks by commissioners?
Hold on, you have somebody online.
Okay.
Go ahead, Rose.
Hi, Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive, and I just want to thank the chairman and the board for allowing the public to speak on these two items, and I understand it's at the end, but I just wanted to acknowledge my pleasure in seeing that being put on the agenda or allowed on the agenda tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rose. Anybody else?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Fox.
Thank you, Michael J. Fox, 1901 Main Street. Rose stole my thunder. So thank you.
Wish to speak here? Okay.
Nobody else online.
All right. Anybody wish to come up and speak on items not on the agenda? Okay.
Chairman, if I may, I would just like to provide a clarification. The comments given were that, speaking on both items, just to remind people here tonight, that petition 3223 is a public hearing. So public comment will be called under that item specifically. So that is the application for the cannabis hybrid retailer at 2661 Berlin Turnpike. So that is a public hearing tonight under that item.
Thank you. All right, any remarks by commissioners? Okay, hearing none. Okay, public hearing, petition 3223. Planner?
I'd like to read the public hearing notice, which is just in front of me. So I can do this first, it's fine. So Newington Town Plan and Zoning Commission notice of public hearing, January 24th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Notice is hereby given to the Newington Town Plan and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing in the council chambers, room 103 at Town Hall, 200 Garfield Street, Newington, Connecticut, on Wednesday, January 24th, 2024, to consider the following petitions. Petition 32-23, special permit, section 6.16, for a cannabis hybrid retailer at 2661 Berlin Turnpike, aka 2657 through 2661 Berlin Turnpike in the BBT zone, Business Berlin Turnpike zone, applicant Chillax LLC, owner 2661 Berlin Turnpike Associates LLC, contact Michelle Bowden, Esquire. The public hearing will be a Zoom hybrid webinar. Information on how to attend will be posted on the town website. The link follows. The petitions and related materials are available for public inspection at the town planner's office, Town Hall, room 204, and through the published agenda at the Town Plan and Zoning Commission Agenda Center. Link follows. Persons who are required an accommodation to participate in this public hearing should contact the town planner. Link follows. Not less than 24 hours before a public hearing. Submitted, Paul Dixon, town planner, and this ran in the rare reminder, January 11th and January 18th.
Thank you.
The procedures for public hearings. The order of proceedings at public hearings shall be as follows. A, convening by chairperson. B, reading of the notice of commission secretary or as commissioner designated by the chairperson to act in their stead. Presentation by the applicant, town planner report on the application. Persons wishing to speak in favor of the application, limited to 3 minutes per person. Persons wishing to speak in opposition to the application, limited to 3 minutes per person. Rebuttal by the applicant, limited to 5 minutes total. During a public hearing, it shall be within the discretion of the chairperson whether the time limitation should be varied slightly, provided the commission consents to any variance by a majority vote.
Thank you. Is the applicant here?
We are.
They're online.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. My name is Phil Silverman from Vicente LLP. I'm here with Michelle Bodian from my office. We are seeking the approval of a special permit to operate a hybrid marijuana establishment for the sale of adult use and medical marijuana at 2661 Berlin Turnpike. This is in the Business Berlin Turnpike zoning district, which is appropriate for this use. The operation of this business is out of a 4,200 square foot space. This is formerly a Pier 1 import store, and the surrounding area has substantial retail, food service, and office building uses. We're only going to be making very minimal changes to the site. It's mostly related to exterior security cameras. That's really it. Paul, is it possible to pull up the site plan?
Yes.
Yep, just give me a minute.
That's great. I should mention while he's doing that, that in terms of where we are in the licensing process, there is a provisional license for a hybrid retailer that is in existence. They've obtained that. It expires February 17, 2025. So, we've got some work to do to get open, but we don't think that will be any problem. This team is actually already in the process of opening one of these in Putnam, Connecticut. And, we've got a little over a year. Really shouldn't be too much of an issue. So we've been here before, had an informal hearing here, but I'll just remind everybody, this is the site plan you're looking at. Access and egress from the site occurs through two existing curb cuts. There will be no changes to those curb cuts or to the existing pavement markings on the site. We're going to replace the existing Pier 1 Imports wayfinding sign, and we will put a wayfinding signage for this particular business on the building. There's going to be a security film on the windows that restricts visibility into the exterior so that we minimize the risk of nuisance from customers who may want to come take a look. It does let light in, but they won't be able to see in. We're going to take the existing landscaping and we're going to revitalize it, make it look nice and fresh. We certainly want an inviting facility here for our customers. Parking, I think you can see it's about 261 marked parking spaces, and those are used as a reciprocal easement with the neighboring properties. 48 spaces are required for our use, so we've got more than enough parking for the area. Loading is through, if you look in the shaded area, there's kind of a square, but one of the corners is lopped off. There's a loading area back there, a rear door, secure shipping area. At the rear of the site, you can see there's a small dumpster that is locked at all times. That's for non-marijuana trash. There's nothing with marijuana that goes in there. But anything with marijuana has to go to a licensed facility for disposal. In terms of the rest of the facility, it's what you're used to seeing. You're going to see the same type of an entry vestibule where you have to show your ID first and get buzzed into the sales area before you can be buzzed in. So, you have some ability to restrict access. There's 11 point of sale positions. And of course, I'll remind everybody that access is limited to people aged 21 years or older or somebody with medical credentials to get in. Traffic here, our traffic study shows a slight increase from the prior use, 101 more vehicle trips on the Saturday midday peak, 59 more vehicle trips on the weekday afternoon peak. Those are interesting numbers. My experience having done this in a couple of other states is those are sort of numbers at the beginning of operation when the state hasn't fully realized all of the retailers that it's going to have. I think the numbers that were in that study will come down significantly. If you were up in Massachusetts, where we do quite a bit of work, you just don't see crowds at these places on. We expect a good customer base here, but only probably a little bit higher than the prior use. In terms of security, again, this is all in accordance with state mandates. You've got cameras on the interior and exterior. We can see everything going on around the building, 360 degrees, and also in the interior wherever marijuana is handled or stored. There are perimeter alarms on the doors and windows, panic and duress alarms at strategic places throughout the site. We do have on-site security personnel during business hours, and the facility is also monitored 24/7 through off-site monitoring. We don't expect any odor issues here. All the products are packaged off-site. We use pressurized HVAC with carbon filtration. Again, you might find odor issues in cultivation and that sort of thing, but not in a retail setting like this. So we don't expect that in this particular facility. So that's a general idea of what the project is, but I'm happy to answer any questions. And if you have any questions regarding, any regulatory issues, Michelle can help me answer them as well.
Any questions, commissioners? No. Okay, I have one quick question here. Are you going to be able to control the traffic so it doesn't go back out that private road through Churchill Bridge?
We're not anticipating any greater amount of traffic, or if a minimum amount of more traffic that might come out on that private road. I'm not sure what you might have in mind there. We're happy to listen and discuss that, but it wasn't something, we're anticipating most of the cars are going to come and go via the Berlin Turnpike, but happy to discuss any other things you might want along those lines.
All right. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I can also add, so items from and actually that was just an echo online, but items from the town planner report is that The application was approved actually unanimously on December 13th, and it was re-advertised due to requirement to provide additional public hearing notice. That has been done. And the application does meet the special permit requirements of section 6.16 and the special permit requirements of the zoning regulations. The hours of operation are proposed 9 a.m. through 7 p.m. Monday through Sunday. That is from the applicant's proposal. There was specific conditions of approval that staff had recommended. Those were in your packet, and also there's a draft motion to that effect. I did kind of review the site and looking at kind of how the parking and how the circulation works, and did some tests of Google Maps kind of in the area. Most traffic is directed when you're in there going to another direction. It does direct you outside through the Berlin Turnpike. I know that was a question about directing the traffic. Most would seem it does. I did watch and look at how traffic kind of moved. There was an occasional car going in there and kind of going through, but that's again, not with this facility even open. It's under the current conditions. There is a gate that's located there, but the gate mechanism is currently missing from there. And there is potentially some signage from one of the previous approvals, right turn only signs internal. That we reviewed the past site plans that weren't at the front of the parking area.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Woods has his hand raised.
Yes, Commissioner Woods.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, the planners just suggested what I was going to say about the right-hand turn signs. We have 2 egress points on that north side of the parking lot. If we could get right-hand turn only. But another question to the planner, I'm assuming, because that is a private road, not a town road, there must be a right-of-way there to allow the property that we're talking about to use that to get to, because obviously the back of the building, there's no way to get to it, I don't think, unless you use that access drive, correct?
That is correct. There is a long-standing right-of-way that is in that area, and there is an easement agreement between the 2 property owners.
Okay. All right, thank you. But yeah, if we could do the one-way or right turn only for the egress out of the north side of the parking lot, I think that could help. That's
We'd
it,
be
Mr.
happy.
Chairman.
We'd be happy to work with you on that. It's a little bit out of our control because that's the landlord. So if the commission wants to sort of condition its assent on us doing that, provided that we can get the consent of the landlord, we're happy to do that. I doubt the landlord's going to object to it. It'd be obviously at our cost.
Paul, do we have that already in our motion or no?
It currently is not, but there is a section that I kind of did note that any other conditions recommended by the TPC. So that could be added to staff's conditions that they recommended.
So I would like to see that added if possible, Mr. Chairman.
Very good, thank you. Any other comments by the commissioners or? Yes, Commissioner Cloud.
One question, kind of diverting back, when the Wren property came in, did we not have these discussions at that same time about that access road? And I don't know if, you're now asking another tenant to address something when this has been redeveloped prior to the cannabis company wanting to come in. But I recall when Wren came in, there was discussion because their staff was parking behind that building. I think we had the same exact conversation of, we don't want people traversing through the easement. So I don't know if the planner can look back. What was Wren, 2 years ago, I think?
It's been a longer than I believe. I don't believe there was an application because it was retail to retail. So there was no change of use. And they didn't really change the parking lot. I don't recall a hearing for Wren. Maybe it came up at some point during comment, but I do not recall an application for Wren Kitchens.
Yep. So I can provide a little clarity too. It was in 1996 when the northern building was built. Again, this is on a separate distinct parcel than the parcel that's subject here tonight to this public hearing.
But they share the parking lot.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Correct. It is on that parcel. When that was developed with that building, that's when those right turn only signs were part of that 1996 site plan. again, it's the combination of whether it's a condition, but it's also a little bit of site plan enforcement as well, that those were approved in 1996. At that time too, that's when the gate was discussed, and in that 1989 easement between the two owners, I believe there was a payment to the condo association regarding the installation of that gate. So yeah, it was made part of that prior to that application, and as part of that application, considering, keep having that area potentially gated at the condo association's discretion.
Thank you.
Anything else, Commissioner Clappy?
No, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions? Anyone wishing to speak, anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this? Okay, hearing none. Anyone wishing to speak against this motion, please come up and state your name and address for the record. Right here.
Stand, sit, any preference?
Take a seat,
Sit down.
please be comfortable.
Yeah, in the microphone, please. Your name, your address for the record, please.
Hello, sorry, my first time doing this. My name is Elizabeth Davis, and I live at 395 Churchill Bridge in Newington, in the association required. And I'm here today. I'm not opposed to the dispensary. My opinion here that I'm going to share today would be the same if it was a Home Goods or an Olive Garden going in that same property, both which holds very dear places in my heart. We already do see increased traffic from folks whenever the Berlin Turnpike is backed up, or if there's an accident redirecting through our private roads. And I don't think it's reasonable to expect our private community to take on the additional cost for fixing the roads more frequently due to potholes, speed bumps needed to be repainted more frequently because of the traffic wear and tear. Potential liability from more traffic coming through our private road using that, because we're in a very unique position where that, it connects the Berlin Turnpike right to Main Street. I did do some research looking at all of the condo associations within Newington based on Google Maps, which is only so good. I don't know what year all the maps were, but there is no other condo association or a private road for a condo association that has where a business can exit out through that private community. So I just don't think it's reasonable to ask us to take on that additional cost for those, those improvements, or, like I said, the additional liability in the winter. Think about it. Somebody might be utilizing our roads. They could have an accident and come back and say, well, it's your private road and it wasn't plowed right, or there was an ice patch and my car hit it. You didn't take care of it properly. So increased traffic of any sort is going to increase our liability. And unfortunately, the town doesn't cover that cost. We as the association have to through a special assessment. So again, I'm not opposed to dispensaries being here in Newington. I think it's great for our revenue. We get the revenue from it. Again, I would have the same opinion for any type of business going there. We saw the same thing when Krispy Kreme came in, if you remember, and all that line of traffic backed up to get in there. People would want to fall out of line and cut through our association. We also have a covered bridge that's fairly low. We see a lot of times trucks just barely making it through and once or twice hitting that bridge. And if they don't stop, and if we don't catch them, we are on the hook for repairing that. So I think as far as the gate goes, we did have a gate at one time. Unfortunately, the community at large, not our residents, they broke the gate because they want to use that as a shortcut. Signage, I love the idea, but I'm just going to put this out there. McDonald's. We have the signage there that says no left turn in from East Robin to McDonald's. There's just no way to enforce it. And we see people doing that all the time, and it causes havoc with traffic. So, I don't know if the answer is maybe working with the landlord to put some types of, there are 3 access points. I'm sure you've all seen them, but there are 3 access points where you can go from the plaza to our access road. Maybe something like putting up guardrails so they can't access that, and then having the landlord move that dumpster so that the folks and their employees can then, go from the loading dock into the back, because it looks like the dumpster is blocking that back parking lot. right? So, and then that way they're separate. I understand there's an easement, but 100 patrons on a Saturday, potentially, let's just say 10 of those cars cut through. That's an additional 10 cars just on every Saturday alone. I just think that we as a private community are going to have to incur a lot of cost because of this. And that's it. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Please come up. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Susan Allaire, and I live at 400 Churchill Drive at Churchill Bridge Condos. I also serve on the board of directors there. I'm here to express my concern about the proposed cannabis building. This building is located right in the backyard of our residential community at Churchill Bridge. A cannabis business located that close to our residence is not acceptable. A safety concern that additional traffic will be driving through our complex. Even now, many people who do not live at Churchill Bridge use our back entrance that opens up to Wren Kitchens as a shortcut to Main Street. These people speed their cars through our complex and are not watching out for residents who are outside walking and children who are outside playing or riding bikes. I am one of those residents who goes for daily walks, and I have personally experienced this on many occasions. I also drive my car throughout Newington behind many drivers who are driving while smoking cannabis. They're smoking and blowing the strong smelling cannabis smoke out of their driver's side windows, which then blows into my car windows and car vents. I've seen many of these cannabis smoking drivers act as though they are impaired. They weave on the road, they drive too fast, they don't use their signal lights to turn, and they brake at the last minute. The prospect of having potentially cannabis impaired drivers driving recklessly through our complex after having purchased their cannabis at the proposed store poses a huge safety threat to our residents. The additional traffic also puts additional wear and tear on our driveway and our covered bridge, increasing the development of dangerous potholes, cracks, and other damage. Again, as Beth said, the expensive cost for the repair of these damages is passed on only to the residents of Churchill Bridge. From a business perspective, I see no need for an additional cannabis business so close to Churchill Bridge. There are already 2 other cannabis businesses in very close proximity. Zen Leaf, located at the beginning of Main Street next door to Urgent Care, and Fine Fettle, located just up the Berlin Turnpike next to the Salvation Army. Both of these stores are only a 3-minute drive from our complex. There are also several vacant business buildings further away on the Berlin Turnpike, which would be more suitable locations for this business. I'm asking that this or any other proposed cannabis business in the future not be allowed to go into the store buildings located along the Berlin Turnpike that abut Churchill Bridge condos. I'd like to protect the safety and welfare of the residents of Churchill Bridge. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? An address for the record.
Okay. My name is Sharon Dunning. I lived at 528 Churchill Drive in Newington. I'm actually the president of the board of the condo Churchill Bridge 2. And some of the people that are speaking tonight are actually on the board. So as a resident of Churchill Bridge, I am concerned about the close proximity to this new business coming close to our residential property. A couple of things that come to mind for me was the 100 feet that the property is zoned for. It's zoned for. Let me read it this way. So the separation requirement, where medical cannabis facility must be no less than 100 feet from property zoned for single-family residential use. So I argue that Churchill Bridge condominium complex is a family residential multi-dwelling property with young families and children. And many of our residents, including myself, are concerned about these businesses that abut our property, and hence the concern for safety. So the concern that 100 feet, I feel, is too close for this particular type of business. Number 2, as 2 of my neighbors have said already, there are already 2 established cannabis businesses located within 1 mile of the residence, Churchill Bridge 2. And now this third one, which will be I don't know if it's within 100 feet, 100 feet or just outside of 100 feet, square feet distance from our complex, which I think is too close. So you've got the Fine Fettle Dispensary on the northbound side, at 2280 Berlin Turnpike. And then on the other side, southbound side, the former Bonefish Grill, Zen Leaf, at 2903 Berlin Turnpike. I think 2 is more than enough in that location. There's lots more areas, like Sue had said, vacant buildings that could occupy this same type of business. Third, I'm concerned that this business may invite, and I say may, invite a certain clientele to frequent the area. And I'm concerned about them accessing our private road. Many times, majority of people aren't even aware of this access road because it's very discreet. But if there's ever an accident on the Berlin Turnpike, there's just a parade of vehicles that come right through our property. I've called the Newington Police Department about it on numerous occasions when it happens, and they've assisted by stopping that right where Wren Kitchens, where the opening is to the Berlin Turnpike. Another problem that we've seen since the increase in traffic off the turnpike and the business Wren Kitchen is the wear and tear of the access road. The access road, if you travel it now, there's lots of potholes again. It happens almost every 2 weeks because of the number of vehicles that are cutting into the plaza or coming down the access road. And people are slowly finding out that that is an access road and they cut to Main Street. So this happens all the time. I guarantee you every day we have people who don't reside in Churchill Bridge 1 or 2 using this road. And we're responsible for everything in Churchill Bridge complex in terms of the wear and tear of the asphalt. So it becomes cost prohibitive. And also the bridge, as was mentioned, has been hit by numerous commercial trucks, which we're very nervous about the stability of the bridge. It's something that we'll have to look at some point down the road to see if there is any integrity compromised. And just lastly, I'm concerned about the negative impact of another cannabis store. I, like many of my neighbors, we walk our dogs. I used to walk the plaza all the time because, you know, it's great exercise. And the stores that were there were family-oriented type retail stores. Now this is changing the complexion of the property. So I don't feel comfortable. I don't think I'm going to feel comfortable going there when there are people hanging out there to get their medications or what have you. It's going to change the type of characters that might be there or linger there. I don't know. I actually want to just say one thing. I did go to Zen Leaf. It is a very nice store. I went there to see if they had CBD oil for my dog. But anyway, I'm not saying anything against the business, but I don't know that this is the right locale for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Webb. I live at 689 Churchill Drive. The first speaker, I agree totally with what she said. I'm not opposed, to a cannabis store. I don't think it's a good location because there's a community there. And Wren's, like you had mentioned, has been there about 2 years. I see Wren's vehicles for 2 years now using our private road. And, we don't get any support from the town of Newington for the road. That's storm drains, water mains, sewer mains, that bridge, that covered bridge we have in the complex. I walk on a daily basis, and usually about half of the time I'll walk out to the plaza where Wren's Kitchens are, and I'll do a circuit, maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 4. It's a very active area. You have, the White Swan motels across the street, Carrier Motor Lodge, daily and weekly, Friendly Acres. It's a bedroom and furnished studio apartments. I've seen during my walks a tractor trailer pull up where Wren's and Pier 1 is and park. And then go across the Berlin Turnpike, the driver. Does he live there? Is he transacting business there? You know, I mean, there's all kinds of things going on in this area, you know? And just a week ago, maybe a little more, I'm leaving Stop and Shop in the morning, and I'm driving home, coming to Access Road by Wren's Kitchen, and I see this white sign across the Berlin Turnpike, the full width of it going southbound. It's a tractor trailer that turned on that turnaround by these hotels trying to go southbound, and it went up on the lawn in front of Wren's Kitchen and just spinning its tires, you know? Luckily I was able to skirt along the edge there and just make it to the, you know, the access road. But I noticed, I don't know how long it's been, a month or two, or maybe more. There's these bright LED lights, 4 of them are in front of that plaza shining into them. They're like hooded, they're extremely bright. So Wren's Kitchens used to keep all their vehicles, their cars, their vans, their trucks overnight, even on weekends. There's nothing there now. You know, I think almost that turnaround where the hotels are coming to the Wren's Kitchens, I think that should be eliminated. Because what I see during those walks also, you have people who are southbound and they'll pull and turn around there. And there's no turnaround going southbound to go northbound. It's like, you know, there's something bad's going to happen in that area. You know, it's, you know, and again, I have nothing against a cannabis store. I just think this is, for various reasons, a bad location, you know? And I mean, it's almost like the laundromat on Irish Street Corner type of thing from years ago. You know, I mean, there must be a better location than this, you know, but that's all I wanted to say. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak against the petition? Way online?
There's somebody online.
Okay.
Rose?
Hi, Rose Lyons, 46 Alton Drive. I'm not for it, against it, but I can understand where the community at Churchill Bridge is coming out and speaking. And seems like a unique situation here where you've got a condo association that's responsible for the roadway and the bridge and is getting no help from the town of Newington in maintaining it, which I'm guessing that probably is anywhere that they don't get help. But this unique situation where there's going to be traffic in and out of there, I'm not quite sure as to whether the signage is up, that it's a private road, that whoever travels through it who doesn't belong in the association is responsible. But I also heard on the town council meeting a couple of weeks ago that the town gets $42,000 a month in revenue from the sales tax or something from these dispensaries. And I think there's some sort of there's a couple of restrictions as to what that money can be used for. One of them is for drug education, which I find ironic, and the other is for improvements around the areas, or to keep the areas up around where the dispensaries are. Now, maybe there is something that can be worked out. Not saying with the owner, but maybe the town of Newington can go out and take a look and see what the condition is right now, and maybe help them out a little bit somewhere in the future. It probably is not going to happen, but just a suggestion. I hope it can work out for both the business owner and the homeowners. I myself would like to see a moratorium on marijuana dispensaries or cultivating places. I'd like to see it like the liquor stores, where you only have a certain amount that can per capita. I know that the state at in the beginning limited the number in the town, and then that restriction was lifted. I'm hoping that this commission will look in the future to see if we can do something to limit the number of marijuana dispensaries or medical marijuana dispensaries in this town. Thank you very much.
Anyone else online? Eric?
No one that has their hand raised right at the moment, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Is there any rebuttal from?
There's someone just raised their hand. Go ahead, Harriet. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I don't know where I left off. Did you get my address?
We got nothing.
You got
So
nothing.
you-
Okay. I'm sorry.
From the
My name,
top.
my name is Harriet Roman. I'm at 176 Schoolhouse Road, and I would like to speak against the new facility. I am 0.7 miles away from the Zen establishment. I am 1 mile away from Fine Fettle, who is called, what they're called another establishment. The one that's coming up now is the cannabis hybrid retailer. I don't care how fancy the names they give them. Newington is going to pot. I think we have two, which is plenty for the number of people that are in this town. We don't need another pot dispensary in this town. I cannot walk to the center of town and back without smelling pot all the time by the elementary school over here because people are smoking it. I have friends that live at the Churchill Bridge, an older woman, and the people next door are smoking pot, which they have the legal right to do, and it wafts into her condo all summer. And it's just not right that their freedoms and our freedoms are fighting each other. But there has to be some stemming of these facilities in Newington. I think two within a 2 mile radius is enough that any of us can handle. Thank you for listening to me. I had a hard time getting on, by the way. Thanks. Bye.
Anybody else there?
Nobody online with their hand raised, Mr. Chairman.
All right, next will be rebuttal from the applicant.
Sure, thank you. So I just want to sort of point out a couple things. We do meet the zoning buffer. There's some separation requirements, as they're called in your ordinance. There is no separation requirement from residences in your zoning. We are about 200 feet away, separated from this complex. And it's a wooded area in between. So it's actually a pretty good natural buffer between the two. I want to point out there was one thing mentioned about people driving impaired. There's no evidence anywhere in any studies that have been done that there is greater number of accidents around these facilities. And I can tell you that we do an extremely thorough job with our customers explaining sort of the rules of the road. In other words, they come in and we will give them education about this. We talk about the products and those sorts of things, but we also explain this is something that you cannot use on site here, and we will monitor our parking lots. If we find somebody using it on site, we alert the local authorities. And it's also thing is you're not allowed to drive while impaired. This is something you take home with you and you use in your home. And again, I think that goes a long way towards stemming a lot of the problems. I can tell you, a lot of the concerns I've had, over the years that I've been doing this, people saying, well, we don't have any problem with cannabis, but this is a bad location. I will tell you maybe not unanimously, but almost unanimously, if you go to those people that said that and the places that have opened, they've come to realize this is no different than having a liquor store, having a pharmacy. It just isn't. People are responsible with this. And basically what we're doing here, people are saying, we don't need to open a third. It's like any other business, it's competition. Nobody would bat an eye at having 3 pharmacies in town. It's, each of them has their own distinct products and tries to appeal to different segments of the market, and it is legal here. So, we believe in having that kind of competition and different options for people. In terms of, the suggestion that this invites a certain type of clientele to these businesses, all I can tell you is the people that use this are your neighbors, your friends, others in the community. I think there's a stigma associated with marijuana. I get it. We've all grown up with marijuana. We're trying to take this out of the dark alleys and have it in a regulated market. I happen to think it's a good idea, and it's worked pretty well in just about every state and locale that it's been done across the country. And we're a national firm that does this all over the country. And that's just the reality. Is it's become accepted, and people realize that the stigma is really needless here. In terms of, just to mention again, I think it's fine for us. So we're happy to put the right turn only signage on the way out on that private road. And if you'd like, we're happy in terms of our customer education to say to people, please heed that. Please make sure that if you're going out that private road, you're taking right turn only, and suggesting, the best is to go out the Berlin Turnpike. So that's my rebuttal. Thank you.
Anybody else, any more of our rebuttal in favor of it? Okay, hearing none, any rebuttal against it? Yes. State your name and address for the record.
Thank you for the opportunity for rebuttal. Elizabeth Davis, 395 Churchill Bridge, within the association. And to mention, I am on the board as well, newly elected, so it'll be an interesting journey. So again, I would just like to point out the unique situation that our association is. There is, as far as I can tell, unless our town planning committee can show me, there is no other private community that has access, that has a strip mall or a business that has access to their private road that the town does not pay for, as far as cleanup, paving, potholes, right? So this is a very unique situation, right, for us, that we are going to incur the cost. If it's even 10 cars a day that are coming from that strip mall, and again, I don't care if it's Home Goods that's there, I would be here saying the same exact thing. That additional traffic will cause a hardship on our community. And we, the residents, we're paying taxes to cover and the cleanup and the maintenance of town roads, but nobody's helping us for our private roads. You can put all the signs that you want there. We've had signs there before. We've had gates there before, and nothing is going to stop them from using that access road unless you block off those entry points. So again, my suggestion would be perhaps putting guardrails, or they can plant grass there or something to block off the access from the strip mall into that private road. Okay, because otherwise there's no other community here, no other private community that has to deal with that. And we have already seen the increase with Ren. And I've actually called up and talked to the store manager and said, hey, you need to tell your people. Oh, I tell them every day they shouldn't use your road, but he can't control them. Just like they can educate their clientele. Again, Home Goods can educate their clientele not to use that road, but it's not going to stop them. And we see the same thing, as I've stated before, happening with McDonald's as just an example every single day, right? So I just think that it is a very unique situation that our specific community is in. So, and again, I looked at the Google Maps. I did my research very thoroughly. I couldn't find anybody else that has this same situation. And we as a community are just trying to better our own community. And we're having, we can't fund it. We can't fund the additional costs of having to repave our roads, the speed bumps, painting them, and the additional liabilities other people have said, right? So you could have somebody take out a whole mailbox unit or hit somebody's, and then we're responsible for it. Or when somebody hit our bridge because their truck was too big and then they left and nobody, caught their license plate number, then we are on the hook for that. Our insurance rates will go up, which means our condo fees will go up, special assessments left and right. And so then you're going to see people moving out and nobody's going to move in. And then where are we? So I just really strongly, really request that you look at whatever facility goes in there, that the access points to that road need to be blocked off. So then at least it's very rare that somebody's using that. But if you have somebody in downtown Newington that's going to be coming there, they're not going to go up East Robbins, get on the Berlin Turnpike and go down the Berlin Turnpike. No, they're going to cut through our road because they know it exists. So I just think that's what needs to be looked at, actually blocking those. And like I said, we've tried the gate situation, community at large. They, the kids come along, they're racing on the Berlin Turnpike, the cops are coming, they want to abscond, they break the gate. We've had it for years. And we incurred the cost to fix that gate every single time. And finally, it became such a burden, we had to do away with it. So I just don't think it's reasonable to expect our private community to take on that additional cost, because it's not you, the taxpayers, that will be helping fund it, right? It is us. And even if you allocate money from revenue this year, saying that you'll help fund us, as they said, I think it was Rose maybe that mentioned that they could do. There is no guarantee unless we have a contract with the state, with the town of Newington, that is for lifetime. There's no guarantee that would be cut out next year with another administration coming in. So I just don't think we could put all of our faith in that you will provide us money to perhaps pave roads and fix things like that. They could take that and reallocate it at any time. So I just ask you to strongly reconsider our unique position that we are in, that no other community has, private community. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Actually, Mr. Chairman, no point of order, and actually the commission can discuss too, but normally there isn't as much back and forth between rebuttal. But that's something as our procedures for public hearing don't typically have back and forth. And I think Commissioner Payne has his hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Payne here. Usually under our procedures, the applicant has the last word.
Okay.
So I would just ask that I think it's good that the public is speaking, and I would just ask that we allow the applicant one last shot at rebuttal.
After this last one.
Thank you.
You'll be the last one to go with rebuttal. Yeah.
John Webb, 689 Churchill Drive. Again, I want to say I have nothing against another dispensary in the town of Newington. This is not a good location. I am a shareholder in a cannabis company, okay? Just to make that clear to someone who's saying that there's a negativity. But that White Swan Motel and that Carrier Motor Lodge and that Friendly Acres, I don't know who lives there today. But at one time, they used to house people that were on state. Some of those people don't have a car. Are they going to go to this cannabis store and walk across 4 lanes of the Berlin Turnpike in an already congested area? You shouldn't be walking across anyways. And again, I want to hammer away on that situation where the guardrail probably should be sealed off, where you're able to turn around going northbound, but you're having people turn going, you can turn around northbound going to southbound. But that's very an iffy thing. I mean, I used to see a while ago, people would cut across and go up the Berlin Turnpike to get to that access road that leads into our condominium. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you for your time, everyone.
The applicant will be able to rebut, and this will be it.
Sure. Yeah. Again, I hear everybody's concerns, and certainly don't want to make, don't want to try to minimize any of that. We've got a landlord. We don't control what the landlord does here. We're willing to try to do what we can in terms of the signage and the education of customers. If there's been a problem there, it's going to be a problem whether it's our business or other businesses. There's things we can do. We suggested regarding the signage. There's things that we can't do, and so it's really not within our control to say, block off some points that I think were previously approved in a site plan. for the area. So I'm not sure how to really effectuate any of that. So, we plan to run a responsible business that's a good neighbor. That's what I can say.
Thank you. Any commissioners have any questions? Yes, Commissioner Hoffman.
Yeah, Commissioner Hoffman here. The only thing that I was gonna say about blocking off that private road is it would have to be done by the owner. Your group would have to take responsibility for blocking it off. It's not a town road. It's not something that we would be responsible for. And if you do block it off, what's the rest of the group who live over there? What are they gonna say? No, I like going out that way. I like coming in that way. Why'd you block it off? For, certain number of people who are wanting it, is it the best for everybody? So think about that before you go down that road. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
I'm sorry? Yeah. Commissioner Claffey?
I just had a question for our planner. I know Churchill very well. I had family that lived in there. Never even thought of it, of them asking about I never knew the reason behind the road. Is it, I don't want to muddy the water, but was it something way back when that was grandfathered, when it was built? Like, did we as a town say, okay, go out to that? Because it's out to a state road, not a town road.
2 points egress.
So,
meaning fire department, public safety commissioner.
So as far as actually,
but with that said, Commissioner Minor, you have town roads that have one way in and one way out.
yeah,
So I'm just trying to understand that. I'm trying to ponder my Google Earth of what other property, only I think it was Foxborough, but that is non-commercial too. That's my only real question.
it has existed for a significant period of time. The connection to the Berlin Turnpike, and even prior to the Berlin Turnpike really developing out to what it is today. As far as access goes, emergency access, there's plenty of secondary accesses to emergency ones that are even in town here that are gated with knock boxes. So as far as emergency access goes, even for a secondary emergency access point, it can be blocked off on a normal basis with fire department access to it. And the fire department has approved, the fire marshal has approved of plans and said, yes, they recommend them, that have been done that multiple ways. We have industrial areas that have specific drives that are permeable pavers that are gone through and that have a gate on the back for secondary access. So as far as secondary access goes, it doesn't have to be open all the time. It just has to be accessible.
Yeah.
It is noted there, and as in that 1996 approval, that's when the gate was shown. When the property was developed out, again, to the north of it, was developed out that connected to it. The gate was there, and there was an agreement between that owner and the association that, the gate can go there. They had a certain portion of the road that they maintained that connected across the easement across their property. The condo association maintained the part that was on their property. So this has been contemplated as far as the past approvals in 1996, and that was a special permit approval for the large retail establishment. So that is the one where, this has been discussed, and that's why the gate was part of that. And there still is the gate that's there with the keypad. It's just, as they noted, that someone had broken the wooden part of the gate that came down. Again, the gate's perfectly contemplated. It's approved. If anyone wanted to reinstall the gate, they would just reinstall it.
Question
Yes,
for the
Commissioner.
comp planner, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman. Commissioner Payne here. If the gate was up, can you still get around it or does the gate stop the traffic?
It's a narrow road. It is actually pretty narrow. Actually, when I look back, I think there was a 1960s site plan when it first started breaking out, where it's actually labeled as a one-way road. So it is quite narrow. So it would be easily blocked. Depends on what type of gate, what type of distance. And again, the option is there, again, working with the fire marshal, that if the goal was to actually do a more permanent solution with a Knox box and that people kept breaking it down. But again, as Commissioner Hoffman's comment was, that's a community decision to make. And that's something that we'll happily work with any property owner if they say we want to modify our access. That's easy to do. It was always contemplated being gated off. And that 1996 approval did not even say the gate has to be openable. They just have approval to put a gate across it.
I also believe,
It was repeatedly broken. Not just once.
and Commissioner Payne, also, I believe there's a small water course that runs pretty close to the gate underneath the road there. So there's wetlands there and impact. So yes, it is narrow, and anything going off the edge is going off the edge. Commissioner Woods has his hand raised.
Yes, Commissioner Woods.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I was going to just move that we close petition 32-23, the public hearing, and move it to old business for possible action tonight.
Is there any other commissioner comments? My question I have here to the planner is, who installed the gate? Do you know offhand? Was it the condo association or the landowner?
Again, just as kind of a little bit of a point of order, there is a motion on the table.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Motion's been made. Second, all in favor?
So, point of order too. So this would be the point where you can call for discussion. So you can call for discussion at this point and discuss whether there are additional questions. The motioner can either continue with that or questions can kind of be asked. But yes, since there's a motion and now the second, that would be for discussion.
My question to you is, do you know who installed the gate, Mr. Planner?
In 1989, the agreement states that the property owner gave $12,000 to the Churchill Bridge Association to install the gate at their discretion. So that would be installed by Churchill Bridge.
So basically, the property owner of the Pier 1 or whatever, or can't pay to have that gate installed. Okay. Maybe it might be a good idea to put that in a condition to have them explore that idea of putting the gate back up.
So just as that, since it is on a different property, not as this part of application, I'm happy to take that opinion or take that suggestion as staff, discuss it with the condo association and have the property owners discuss it amongst themselves too, at what can be done to control access between it. I think that would be a good discussion again between the two property owners to see what could be done to resolve the issue. Again, it's not an issue particular to this application. It's an issue that that the community has identified as a long-standing issue.
Yeah, you'll take care of that then? Okay. All right.
Chairman,
Yes.
just a further discussion. After reading the planner's report on this, I just want to make sure as a commission, we, have looked under the, what we have to agree to for, against, and we're meeting all the special permit sections per his report. Because he makes mention of different sections, and like one in particular is under, 5.2.6 and all those bullet points that just the commission is aware, and I think it's a big discussion point that we're all feel they've been addressed, not addressed, and move forward with this. If the planner wants to get into that, I don't think you spoke about it specifically that they met it. You just addressed it in your report. So
it does meet those requirements. The applicant, in their summary, did note that they did an analysis to look at kind of the use and the amount of I should actually have that one, and this might be a chance for the applicant to actually answer it if there are any other questions regarding that. But the applicant did note that they did look at the demand in the area, and it is not saturated beyond what the demand and the need for, not even demand, what the need for is in the area. So they did have discussed that in their memo. Again, The probable future character of the neighborhood, it is the Berlin Turnpike. It is a retail establishment. It is a retail cannabis establishment, but this is a commercial retail plaza, which has been approved. And again, the size, and what we're really talking about is, it isn't larger than 40,000 square feet. This is within an existing structure, within an existing approved. And when you're looking at this, a restaurant likely would have more traffic associated with it, and that wouldn't be something that, as a planner, I would discourage someone opening a restaurant in kind of along the Berlin Turnpike. So it is just to kind of consider what is there existing. And again, it is a retail plaza. So this is a retail use going into it.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, call for a roll call vote, please, Noreen. I'll vote last.
Commissioner Claffey?
We have to close the discussion.
Yeah, this is a vote for closing the.
Closing the public hearing.
Correct.
Moving into old business.
She called you.
Oh, shit, I'm sorry. Yes.
Go ahead, Noreen. Mr. Claffey voted yes.
She's muted. Eric, she's muted.
Yep.
Okay, Commissioner Payne,
Yes.
Commissioner Pascarelli,
Yes.
Commissioner Woods,
Yes.
Commissioner Droz,
I'm not seated.
oh, sorry, and Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
She didn't get you. Minor.
Minor.
She might have been muted.
Yeah.
Commissioner Mike,
Yes.
okay, it's unanimous.
Commissioner Sobieski also votes to close it.
Chairman Sobieski, I'm sorry.
Minutes.
We close this. We're gonna move it to old business to vote on tonight. Okay, thank you. Next is approval of the minutes for 10 January. Yes, Commissioner Payne.
Thank you, Commissioner Payne here. On page 11, at the top, it says, Commissioner Payne, let me ask you this, who controls the erosion sedimentation control for the town of Newington? Then someone in our town. That is why I'm bringing it up. I don't believe I spoke about that. I believe it was Commissioner Claffey.
Yes.
So if we could make that change, and then there was on page 15, down about 3/4 of the way down, Commissioner Droz, is there a condition to do maintenance on this site? And then Paul talks, and then Commissioner Droz talks again. I don't know if we had the right to make that our business. I'm not sure if that was Commissioner Droz or Commissioner Nafis.
Commissioner Nafis. That made, Commissioner Claffey speaking, I'm pretty sure on that page, Commissioner Payne, where it says, is there a condition to do maintenance on the site? It was Commissioner Nafis who was sitting to my right at that meeting.
Yeah, because I spoke after him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those.
Any other changes?
No, that was it. And then I think it might help Noreen if before somebody speaks, if we just mention your name, Commissioner so-and-so, it might help her because there's a lot of new people on here that she's not familiar with. So that was the only thing. Thank you.
I noticed under Commissioner absent, it should be Chris Minor, not Craig. Please correct that.
Will do.
Okay, I did entertain a motion to accept the minutes with the corrections.
Second.
Sorry, so moved.
Okay. Move the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, we're gonna go to old business. Paul, you want to read that, or you want us to have Commissioner Pasquale read? Okay.
Okay. So petition 32-23, special permit, section 6.16 for a cannabis hybrid retailer at 2661 Berlin Turnpike, AKA 2657 2661 Berlin Turnpike. In the BT zone, Business Berlin Turnpike zone, applicant Chillax LLC, owner 2661 Berlin Turnpike Associates LLC, contact Michelle Bodian Esquire. Do we want to add any of the, so these are the motions to approve with conditions? Are we
Yes.
adding any
Add those
conditions?
in there.
One recommended item, and this is staff before the motion's on the table, that staff would recommend adding item 8. The proposed language that I'm looking at is the applicant shall work with staff to install signs to direct traffic away from the private road, such as right turn only signs.
I'll have you read that when we get there.
Yes.
Okay, motion to approve with conditions. Move to approve petition 3223 for a special permit for a cannabis hybrid retailer at 2661 Berlin Turnpike with the following conditions. 1, the applicant shall obtain all required permits and approvals, building, health, etc. 2, the applicant shall revise the site plan to make the parking table agree with the plan. 3, the final design of the odor control system shall be submitted to the town for review and approval. 4, building signage is not approved as part of this application. Signage will require a separate zoning permit. 5, the approval is conditional, subject to the provisions of section 6.16.9, is valid for 6 months unless otherwise extended in accordance with section 6.16.9C, and shall not be finalized until the applicant has provided the town planner's office with a copy of an issued hybrid retailer cannabis license from Department of Consumer Protection. 6, the applicant shall provide a copy of any license renewal to the town planner's office within 30 days of such renewal being granted. 7, a copy of this special permit shall be filed in the town clerk's office along with a copy of the state issued hybrid retailer establishment license within 90 days of the issuance of a final license from the Connecticut Department of Consumer Protection. 8,
8 is the applicant shall work with staff to install signs to direct traffic away from the private road, such as right turn only signs.
reason for approval. The proposed application with modifications meets the criteria for special permits and site plans as delineated in the Newington zoning regulations.
Is there a motion to accept?
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor?
So, Mr.
Oh,
Chairman.
we're gonna have a roll call vote. I'm sorry, Noreen. I'll vote last, please.
Mr. Chairman, just as a point of order, this would be the place for discussion, if there is such.
Okay, any discussion? Yes, Commissioner Claffey.
Commissioner Clappy here through you, Chairman, just on item number 5. Who is then signing off on that when they issue the permit? Is that an administrative or is it gonna come back through us because of there's so many conditions? Because the way I read it, it doesn't say who they. I don't remember seeing anything like this as a conditional approval until you get your final state license on the previous ones. That's the only reason I'm asking.
So this is similar to the ones for Zenleaf. Item 5 was actually 2 different items that were collapsed together to read specifically towards the regulations. And it is, once they provide it, it gets finalized by staff. But again, it's that provision of us that it gets finalized.
Gotcha. I'm Chairman Sobieski. Okay.
Yes.
Commissioner Payne, and if you could just explain for the commissioners and the public, once again, you're gonna work with the property owner and the Churchill Association to try to improve and rectify the situation with the gate. Is that correct?
As you know, as different from this application, not specifically conditioned, but yes, that is something. And I have even looked up on Google on how to try to remove roads and do that. So that's something I'm already looking into. It will take some work, but it's something I'm happy to discuss with the association.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chairman Woods also has his hand raised.
Okay,
Commissioner Pascarelli, this is my concern as well. This particular business isn't even as close as Wren Kitchens to the I believe where the big issue with the road is. And so I feel like a solution needs to be found for all these concerned parties, and I'm not sure that this is you don't want to just kick the can down the road on this one application. So that is my concern as well, that there is some follow-up to bring some resolution.
thank you. Commissioner Woods?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with the two commissioners that just spoke. I mean, I listened to everybody speak tonight from the association, and I do sympathize with them. Although there is a right-of-way granted on that piece, so at some point, they were willing to share the road. It doesn't look like they're willing to do that anymore, but this is really a landlord and Churchill Bridge Association, homeowners association issue that has to be hammered out, not the tenant. And Paul, this is a question to you. Do you know, would this easement be on record at the town clerk's office, and would we be able to get a copy of it?
Yes, it would be.
I would love to be able to read it, to see what's in it, just to see if the landlord of this property does have some ownership in the maintenance of the road. The biggest thing that I'm trying to reckon with, even if we blocked off, had the ability, and not with this petition, but somehow we had the ability to block off those two driveways that exit onto that north road that takes you into Churchill Bridge. It doesn't solve the problem. It's still going to be used as a cut through from the Berlin Turnpike. So there's a bigger solution here that needs to be hammered out, and hopefully we can help the condo association get some resolution down the road. But I don't think it's fair to hold this applicant hostage on it, because it's really not their fight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Minor, do you have something? No. Okay. All right. We'll entertain a vote. Maureen, please have a roll call vote. I will vote last, please. Thank you.
Commissioner.
You're muted again.
Commissioner Claffey,
Yes.
Commissioner Minor,
Yes.
Commissioner Payne,
Yes.
Commissioner Pascarelli,
Yes.
Commissioner Woods,
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman,
Yes.
Chairman Sobieski.
Yes.
You have an unanimous vote.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Next on the agenda is new business. Mr. Planner?
So on this one, I believe we have the applicants online and clear my items in front of them. So this new business is the pre-application for 103-175 Lowry Place. So this is, we have some boards actually that the applicant has brought up, and I believe that the property owners are here as well to kind of discuss the pre-application. Just for a reminder of the commission, pre-applications, this is not an application that will have a vote on it. This is an application that is prior to development, that the applicant signs a pre-application agreement that says they're coming here to get the feedback of the commission prior to submitting any application. So this is, and that feedback is not to be used at a later date for any determination for any votes if an application does come forward. So this is at the point to provide a first look at what they're proposing on the site. They are proposing a couple concepts that either would require a change to their application or a potential change to the zoning regulations. Those are identified in the staff report, some of those items. So what they're really here tonight is just seek feedback on their proposed application. Again, and I know that there has been some talk in the community on that. There is no application to be approved here tonight. This is, again, is a pre-application, and it's just to get feedback and to help direct the applicant as they move forward with future applications. Sorry, we didn't take those out for you.
Laughing.
We have on the line,
State your name and
Name and address for the record.
Is Tony on? So
He is online, correct.
Okay. So, my name is Ward Races, for the property owner, 165 Hoffman Drive, across New York. So,
Updated.
and then Tony, if you wanna, so he's gonna start.
So the one, Tony, sorry, right before I cut you off, sorry about that. So the one thing I would like to say for the staff is, the plans you have in front of you are pretty much the same that you got in your packet. The one thing that the applicant did is they provided an updated one that reflected 2-bedroom elderly because staff didn't note that there was kind of a parking deficit for the 2 bedrooms, that it was noted 50 spaces, 50 there, when it requires 2 spaces per 2 bedrooms. They have indicated that on the plan. So that's the item that they told me did differ. So just for a point of information for the commission.
Thank you. Paul, my name is Tony Amenta. I am the president of Amenta Architects located in Hartford, Connecticut. My home address is 320 North Steel Road, West Hartford, Connecticut. Business address is 242 Trumbull Street, Hartford, Connecticut. Thank you for having us here in this pre-application meeting. Proposed development, we are at this point calling it Lowry Place. It is located on the corner of Lowry Place and Constance Lee Boulevard. The current use is a mercantile or retail strip center, shopping center, if you will. As you can see in the Google Map diagram outlined in white, it's a 9.87 acre site. We go to the next slide, please. We are proposing a multifamily development of 2 buildings. If you look closely there on the right, it says Building A. Looks like 2 separate buildings, but they are combined on an upper floor. So that is Building A, and then to the left is Building B. They are adjacent to, as you can see, Lowry Place at the top of the sheet, and on to the right side, Constance Lee Drive. There on the right, they literally are placed on the existing parking field and part of the shopping center, which will be demolished to make room for these structures. We've located the parking for the structures behind or to the south of the existing building is a large parking field, and then also to the west is a smaller field that separates our building from the U.S. Post Office that is adjacent to the west. We are calling for this to be a fully residential rental building of a total of 273 units, 129 units on Building A, and then 144 units on Building B. Total parking is 297 spaces. You can see on this drawing also there are some setbacks marked. I'll go into greater detail, but there's a required rear setback line is dashed in at 25 feet. Our setback is well beyond that, obviously. Talk about that in a second. We have a required front yard setback of 15 feet, which we are respecting, and then the side yard setbacks as well, which we're respecting. The buildings allow for a development of the interstitial space between them for amenities for the residents, including we're proposing potentially a swimming pool and some outdoor features, which we would like to see developed later on if there is agreement to proceed. The 2 large spaces that flank each other are labeled amenity. Those would be fitness rooms and common area spaces within the Building A and Building B for the residents' use only. The rest of the first floor that you're looking at is a combination of 1 bedrooms, which are indicated by the 1S for studio apartment, and 2 for a 2-bedroom apartment. If we go to the next slide, please. This is a slide which is showing the upper floors of the building. There are a total of 4 stories proposed. So 2, 3, and 4 will be identical in terms of their layout and configuration and unit count. And again, you can see the numbers 1 and 2, and then S for studio. The amenity spaces, which were shown below, are now private terraces, which would be balconies for certain units on the second floor of that space. So we go, let's see, the chart on the left is unit mix summary. So showing that unit 2, level 4, 3, and 2, the unit count is identical with 74 units total on each floor. And then level 1 is slightly less because we do have the amenity spaces, lobby, and other common area spaces. It's a total unit count of 51. There is 19% of the units will be 2-bedroom, 52% of the units will be 1-bedroom, and we're proposing 29% to be studio units. Next board, please. In understanding the existing zoning code, we are in the Newington Zone B-TC, Business Town Center, and also on the Town Center Village Overlay District section. So the codes are listed there. And also, as you read down this chart, I have the requirements listed on the left column. The middle column is what is required, and the right column is what we are proposing for this development. So for example, the first item is lot area. We are required to have a lot area. Now I'm up at this right-hand side of your board here with this lot area designation. Thank you. So our lot area of 10,000 square feet is what's required as a minimum lot area. We are using the entire 9.87 acres, which is, I'm not sure I can do the math on that, but it's, I think 10,000 square feet is
Almost
about
400,000.
There you go. It's quarter of an acre for the requirement, and we are at 9.87 acres. The lot width requirement is 200. We have of course, a lot width of existing is 576 feet. The minimum lot area per dwelling, this one required a table and for us to explain. So that's the table A to the left that's being circled now. Thank you very much. The way we are proposing these units of 273 is broken down on the left. As you can see, we're proposing 28 of the units will be reserved for elderly, which is identified as 55 or older. 28, which is 10%, will be designated as affordable. And then the remainder, which is 80%, or 217 units, will be at a market rate. And this is important because your zoning code as it exists now has different minimum lot areas per dwelling based on the makeup of the apartment unit occupant. So for instance, if it's an elderly unit designation, your zoning code only requires 725 square feet of lot area per unit. And so we have provided that on the right-hand column. Your affordable units has a different requirement of 750 square feet per unit. We've provided that as well. But your market rate units, or those that are without designation, should say it that way, as neither affordable nor elderly, have a requirement of 2,500 square feet per unit. We were not able to provide that, and so we have 1,785 square feet of lot area per unit, as opposed to the 2,500, which is required by your zoning code. Reading down again back to the chart on the right-hand side, we have a front yard setback requirement of 25 feet. We are proposing 15 feet, which is allowable as per section 3.12 A.5. Our side yard requirement is 0. We're providing a 76-foot side yard. The rear yard is a 25 feet away from a residential zone, which we do abut. we are providing 287 feet of setback of a rear yard. The maximum stories allowable in this zone is 3 stories. We are proposing a 4-story height. The maximum height allowed is 35 feet in this zone. We are proposing 48 feet because of the 4th story. Accessory buildings we do not have, so there's the number of projections we don't have either, and so those are not applicable. The minimum landscape area is required in your zone of 10%. We are providing 12% of our lot area will be landscaped. And then the residential zone is minimum requirement of 25 feet. We were providing, again, the total buffer of 287 feet. Down below that, we have the parking requirements. Stall size 9 by 18. We're providing that. The space count is then listed there. For the studio 1-bedroom units, we have 1 space per unit. Required, we have 1.05 provided. For the 2 bedrooms, we have 2 spaces per unit, and we are providing 2 in the market rate units or the non-elderly, non-affordable. Because as you see below that, the elderly bedroom requirement for 2-bedroom is 0.5 per unit, and we are using that 0.5 for all of our 2-bedroom elderly apartments. And the last items are regarding setbacks, 5 feet from the property line. We are matching that requirement, and then 3 handicap spaces are required, and we are providing 3 handicap spaces. The percentage of green space to parking lot requirement is 10%. We are providing a 12% for that requirement. The graphic on the upper left-hand corner just begins to show you a little bit, if you're familiar with the site. There on the bottom of that graphic is a couple of things to note. The 20-foot MDC drainage right away, which we're staying out of. The overhead transmission lines, that is the power poles and line there. We're staying away from those as well. And there's an existing edge of bituminous pavement, which is kind of curved there, and you can see it kind of overlaps where the overhead transmission line is. So our new paving will be further north than the existing paving. So we'll be removing paving in that area and providing an additional buffer. So if we go to the next sheet, I can show you a little bit about that buffer. You can see on your drawing number 1 is really a building height comparison, showing the height of our building at 48 feet, and then the dotted line going across to some of the other buildings along the same Constant Lee Drive. One is known as the Stilts Building, which is 32.4 feet, and the other is known as the Market Square Building, which is actually 62 feet 10 inches, according to our calculations. So we are well below that height with our proposed building. Drawing number 2 is a cross section through our site, showing on the left-hand side, the residences that are along the adjacent street. And then the distance now is 337 feet. What we did was we took from Google Maps, we took the closest residential structure to our proposed development. So the 287 feet listed earlier was just the actual to our property line, but between the nearest resident and our proposed building A, which is the closest building to that residence, is 337 feet. So it's a football field and then some of length between the two. But we are also proposing an additional 10 feet of coniferous landscaping as an additional buffer. So, the woods that are back there are mainly deciduous trees. And in the wintertime, be fairly easy to see through those. We're proposing then an additional buffer to kind of give you some additional screening of the cars in the parking lot of 10 feet with a double row of fir trees, coniferous trees, if you will, that'll be in foliage all year round. Next, board, please. Then in terms of images for the building, we have not designed anything for this pre-application meeting, but we looked at some of the buildings obviously in the area, the new extension to Town Hall shown here on the left. And on the right are two structures that our firm has designed. The first one is in West Hartford on the top, 616 New Park Avenue. And the lower two pictures are of a 4-story apartment complex that we designed in New Canaan, Connecticut. And I think that's the last slide.
Yes, Tony.
It is.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to present.
Chairman, if I could have a question?
Excuse me, Commissioner Payne?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Payne here. The photo that you have up there showing examples, is that 616, is that a mixed use building?
It is technically, yes, technically there is a small retail, I think it's 1,500 square feet on the first floor of that building.
Oh,
it's more, we use the photo more for just aesthetic, not so much the actual building components. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So we did also, thank you, Tony. We did also provide an executive summary, and I hope you've had a chance to read that. But just to give you a little bit of brief history of our history with the property. So we acquired the property in 2013 out of an estate that had hoped to redevelop the property some years earlier. There were some unfortunate incidents with that estate, and they had to sell through an auction. We acquired the property intending to bring a grocer to the market. Our family owned and operated the Best Market chain, which sold in 2019 to another chain that this location was not sold. Still intended to try to operate as grocery and tenanting the entire center. That chain was not able to be sustained. Obviously, as you know, Berlin Turnpike has taken a lot of the wind out of the sails of retail in the neighborhood center of Newington. The Berlin Turnpike has a lot of national retailers, namely Aldi, Stop and Shop, Price Chopper, Stu Leonard's, Target. All of those have put an immense amount of stress on the independent grocery retailer. So we have a large box, about 33,000 square feet, that has been vacant since the Best Market / local market closed. We've been marketing the site for its existing use and have not been able to find what we would consider a suitable user for the site. In that part of that exploration, we did speak with Amenta Emma and Tony. We've actually had these discussions a number of years ago, a little bit before COVID, during COVID. Wasn't the right time to bring about that. We tried to go back out to the market, still have not been able to find a suitable user. The types of users that we've been getting are dead storage users, things like that, that we don't think will actually benefit the rest of the community, nor will they benefit the smaller shop space. We've actually heavily invested in some of the smaller shop spaces. You've seen the gyms. We took out the bar that was in there, put in a chiropractic office. There's been some unfortunate things that have happened to some of the, unfortunately, the users that were in those spaces. And ultimately now the property is still maintained, but unfortunately the rent roll that would need to support a first-class property is not there. So these sort of properties, we call them in the real estate industry, the C centers, they don't have a lot of hope. And really what we want to do is we want to bring a valuable asset to the community, not just for the residents that could occupy this building, but also for the entire downtown. We've obviously been tied to the Newington community for about 11 years now. It'll be 11 years in March. We've loved serving the community, but we want to see the right thing happen to this site. So that's really what brings us to today. And that's why we, in consultation with town planner, said we want to have this be an inclusive discussion.
to talk about how do we best bring out the highest and best use of this parcel. I did send over to the planner some studies that have been done now around the country about reutilizing strip centers. You must have heard about offices. They're trying to convert offices to residential. Strip centers are really one of the biggest ways to spur additional affordable elderly development and to reuse some of these highly underutilized assets and land use around the country. So with that, obviously, we are excited to be here. We've wanted to get in front of you guys for a while, and we really look forward to a meaningful discussion this evening.
Yes, Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes, Commissioner Hoffman here. I applaud you for your insight as to where you want to go with this. I'm not sure you're doing it appropriately. And in that reason, what I'm saying is that you're looking for support of local businesses. When you take them out of there, those 7 businesses, there may not be any place in town for them to go, so they'll go away. So that's not really, supporting economic. You made a comment that some of those businesses were kind of almost transitory, that they're not going to be around long. You have one tenant there who has been in town for over 30 years and has been in 2 locations, one on Market Square and one at your location. So they're there to stay. If you close them down, they're going to have a hard time finding another place to stay in town. The other thing would be economic revitalization. My thought on something like this is you want to have 4 stories. Why not have the bottom story, the first floor, be multi-purpose? Have it as, business. Some of these places that are having trouble finding locations within town, bring them right on the first floor. Have second, third, and fourth possibly be your living areas. That would help bring that economic revitalization, to the downtown area, which needs it. And the only other thing that I was thinking of is move the whole site south. So that building B would have a parking lot between Lowry Place and the building. So everything just kind of shifts down one parking lot lane. Get it away from that main street, that Lowry Place. And that's my comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoffman. Anybody else? Commissioner Payne, Commissioner Claffey?
Yeah, I'll be happy to. I like the idea of bringing some housing in town. I like the idea of the affordable and some senior housing. I think we could use more of the senior and affordable than the 10% that you have. I agree with Commissioner Hoffman. I'd like to see some businesses down on the first level. I would consider going 4 stories high if you could provide some businesses down on the first level. Matter of fact, according to our 2030 plan, we're supposed to encourage that mixed use type of construction. If you can possibly build something where you could salvage those businesses and then add additional spaces. I still like the idea of a small grocer in there. I don't know if one will come or I'm not talking 30,000, 20,000, just a small one where that might be able to provide for some of the people in the area there. But the town center needs the component of businesses along with the housing. I think that is the only way to make the town center a vibrant place. And those are my comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Claffey. I like the idea. I think I kind of concur maybe with the previous commissioners, the placement of the buildings not so close to the main Lowry Place. And I say that if you look at the rest of town center, I think our problem in our town is we built out to as far as we could allow them to the street. And now there's really no feel. You come down Cedar Street and it's just buildings and houses on each side and a small sidewalk. And I know the community in that aspect with your buildings is the communities within, but maybe the concept of shifting a little bit to open that up, move buildings. There is a need for the elderly. The market rate when and if this ever happened, the numbers will vary. But I'm not really for that location having the component of mainly everyone looks in on the unit and not out at the town. It really looks to me like it's closed to the town, like, oh, Lowry Place, we don't want anything to do with you. But I think on some places you showed like 616, New Park, like that's right up on the road and it kind of fits that corridor. We have more of a walking community in there. I live close to this area. And the amount of people that I see walking, it surprises me how many people walk in our downtown because of the business that's already there. But I agree with everything they've all said. A little more business friendly to coincide with our POCD. But viable.
Commissioner Droz?
Commissioner Drost, how you doing? Appreciate you coming out tonight. I don't think there's anyone in the room who's going to disagree with the fact that something definitely wants to happen with that property. Because obviously it's just not doing anything right now. We've got the smaller storefronts to the right, which are great. But then there's obviously the large Best Market, which isn't. I would like to mirror a little bit of what had been said before me. You've got a double parking lot, a pair of 2-lane parking lots towards what would be the bottom of that slide. If one of those were be to flipped to Lowry such that the rest slide in, tie that in with your bottom floor as to what would be building B is then mixed use, which does a bunch of things. If you were in your living room and you've got your 15-foot setback that you're talking about now, you would have someone closer than you and I are right now to your living room window on the sidewalk. You know what I mean? If it was a store, if it was, the chiropractor, which is there now, hey, that's advertising, bring it. You know what I mean? But that's not what we have here now. The problem might become is that you might need to consider 3 stories instead of 4 because you're really tight on parking now. And if you're talking commercial versus the 1 space per apartment, 2 spaces per apartment, a half a space per apartment, you might run into some there. But from a real estate aspect, then you're looking at the difference of income, square footage of residential versus square footage of commercial, which you've already got tenants now. Brings me to another point. You're going to want to think about what's the plan for those businesses which are there now, which are really kind of tied in with the community. And that's twofold. 1, giving them a place to go. You know what I mean? Hey, this is going to be a mess for the next 1.5 years worth of construction. We'll work with you, but we're going to have this beautiful building when we're done. You know what I mean? You've got customers now. You know what I mean? I'm guessing you haven't sold any of these residential units. I can tell you've got commercial people dying to know where they're going. You know what I mean? But that brings in with the second thing, which is the process. What are you physically going to do with those businesses? Because in your executive summary, you say supporting local businesses over external retail chains. I just did a quick drive-through of the Market Square area, and I counted, not including the large box Best Market, because that's kind of the white elephant in the room right now, literally. I counted 7 available storefronts in that Market Square area. I might be off by a couple, don't quote me. 3 of them are just in your half of that strip. And not all of them had real estate signs out, by the way, I noticed that. One of them's already spoken for of the 7 in regards to a restaurant that's going to be moving in, which means based on square footage of what's available versus some of the businesses that are in that strip mall side now, they literally wouldn't have any place to go. As one of the other commissioners already brought up, they'd been in the community for 30 years, I believe they'd mentioned, and it's already their second location because they outgrew the first. We can't send them back to the first. You know what I mean? So what's the plan? And I don't know and it's basically a site work question. You probably haven't gotten this much into it, being that it's a preliminary thing. Where's your drainage? What do you have to rework, et cetera, et cetera. But would it be possible to build building B before you've demoed that half of Best Market? So you can say, go ahead and move in, we'll build the rest of it. I don't even know. Because there's site work and drainage and utilities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But along the lines of trying to maintain those businesses, which we really want in downtown Newington, the last thing we want to do is kick them out. Next best thing is to say, here's a place we can bring you to. Very best thing is, here's where we can bring you and here's how we can help you do it. You know what I mean?
Leave them where they are.
Yeah, but they wanted to make that a parking lot.
That can come later.
That's why, exactly my point. The parking lot can come later if they've given them the building with the mixed use on the first floor to go into. Then the building gets raised and made into the parking lot, but it all depends on utilities that are underground, and they probably haven't surveyed that yet. So, those are my points for the moment. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Woods has his hand raised online.
I'm sorry?
Commissioner Woods has his hand raised.
Commissioner Woods?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to agree with most of the other commissioners. I think you're definitely missing that mixed use for this particular site. And I know that can be a challenge. Early on, there's a lot of these complexes that went up, not necessarily though right in the center of town. Some of them are on the outskirts of the town, and they have a mixed use on the first floor with apartments above. Apartments run out right away. But Newington, I believe this is where we can help you, is we offer this unique situation. If you spend some time in Newington, specifically our downtown center, our storefronts are rented and they stay rented. There's a very small turnover. And that is somewhat unique to a community our size. And I think that there is definitely a need for more retail downstairs. And I mean, it's unfortunate that it didn't work out for you with the grocery store. You know, we had hoped that you hit a home run, and then COVID and life and everything gets in the way. And I do get that. And the building on New Park Avenue that you showed, it's funny because the town of West Hartford obviously owns that building, their housing authority. They learned a lesson, right? There's 1,500 square foot of retail space in that building, and the one down at the corner by the busway, the whole first floor or 75% of the first floor is mixed use. But again, it's not in a heavy retail area, I would tell you. More commuter businesses, people looking for things. But we don't have a lot of space in our downtown to give up retail space, and this would be giving up a tremendous amount. I mean, I like what you're doing as far as the size of the apartments. I think you're going after something that will fill in quickly. There's definitely a need in our town for this particular size unit. Again, the more affordable units and the more elderly units I think you could get in there would be helpful. And I understand you'll lose some units when you do that in retail space down below, but hopefully, with the right tenants, it can be an offset. But for me to move this forward or to consider it, it would have to have, a combination of residential and some sort of business, and preferably retail businesses on that first floor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Woods. Commissioner Pasquale, do you have anything to add?
I would like to just echo what Commissioner Woods said and others, that while we do need housing, there's, this is the, town center overlay. It has it's meant to have a certain feel. Part of that is maybe, restaurants and shops, anything that can be provided to, add to, this is, and it adds housing, but what does it add to the rest of Newington? I mean, I also think that, and it's just a comment, but I think 273 units is a lot. It looks like it's a lot just there, and I think probably because, you know, with the parking only being, you know, I mean, that would have to be a special consideration that you're looking for, I guess, one spot per unit. So, I mean, maybe, you know, you're not, you know, this is just a starting place perhaps, and maybe you can, you know, take a lot of these suggestions and think about these things, you know. Somebody mentioned walkability, and Commissioner Payne mentioned the POCD, and these are things that are very important. I think if anyone has an opportunity who's watching this meeting to take a look at the POCD, you know, walkability, being able to go get a cup of coffee, go, you know, get a baguette and, you know, walk home and have all of this thing be harmonious with the addition of housing. I think that's the way to go. There's very little that we can do in Newington right now in terms of, you know, this is a grand gesture. This is a big thing that would come to us. So I believe that everybody here really wants to see it, wants to see you successful, but wants to see it done in a way that is really helpful to everyone, and serves us for the future.
Thank you, Commissioner Pascal. Commissioner Minor?
Thank you. Appreciate the time. A couple comments that I would agree with is I think having a mixed use component is critical. I personally am not overly in favor of just a straight high density property or complex. We have almost 1,000 units that are currently either been approved or on their way to construction. So there's going to be some considerable changes to the community. However, I think this parcel combined with the opportunity of an adjoining parcel being potentially on the market is something that either private development or through master planning offers a tremendous amount of opportunity to transform what originally started as the core center of this town back to a revitalized and updated version of it. I currently work on several properties on Main Street that are mixed use. They are 1930s construction, and they are just craving for an opportunity to be revitalized. And I think you said it best, and you're looking at your group's opportunity for seeing the highest and best use of this property. And straight high density, I don't think is it. But I think with the opportunities presented on adjoining and abutting properties right in that immediate area, with work with the town and master planning offers tremendous opportunities that we haven't seen in this area in generations. So I applaud the efforts to try to find something. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Minor. Commissioner Chairman Sobieski, I am not really enthusiastic about going above 3 stories, to be very honest with you. It's a town, not a city. I do know the property that you were referring to on New Park Avenue. I've gone by it. You know, and again, would like to see mixed use development and additional housing for seniors and affordable. As Commissioner Minor said, we have over 1,000 apartments going in. Most of them are mixed or market rate. You know, so, you know, we've got it. I'm looking to see something for seniors and affordable housing. Yes, I'm sorry, Commissioner Claffey.
Thank you, Commissioner Claffey here. Just, you know, I've been listening and talking. If elderly is definitely a hot topic, affordable is a hot topic, market rate definitely, because you want your overall town to rate pretty decent for people who pay market rate, which is extremely high in this area. And I think a lot of us kind of concur about the mixed use element, some commercial. I mean, that's a broad brush. Retail, I don't like to use that word because it's slowly moving away, but there are ways to design your building where you might have your units on the first floor, say facing the back, and you have a smaller commercial establishments facing the front, vice versa, where it kind of incorporates not, just like, hey, we want the whole first floor commercial, because it might not be feasible to be occupiable long-term. So, like I live near an elderly housing complex, and I look at it like, this is a great concept here, but it's a parking lot in front of a building. And but there needs to be maybe not as much commercial because of the viability long-term.
Yes, Commissioner Payne.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Payne here. Just a couple other things. I don't think the entire site, I'm not expecting the entire site to be mixed use. In other words, I'd like to see the mixed use facing Lowerly Place. And then in the rear, if there was an apartment building that was all residential, I wouldn't object to that. I also, concerns for the post office there. Will there still be an arrangement where they use a lot of the parking that's existing there? It seems like the property line, they don't really have use of that.
But the mailbox is right there.
But the mailbox is right there. And I think that they are very busy there. So I would just, be wondering whether or not you'd be still allowing them to possibly use some parking there or not. The other thing too is in our 2030 plan, it talks about when you're encouraging people to use this mixed use, that it encourages the TPC to consider reducing the parking standards. And I think that some of the commissioners would be open to that. And there might be a couple other things that that if you don't comply with everything, that we might consider to overlook a couple things possibly, or rework it if we can get a really nice development. And I'm sure that's what you really want to do, is put a real nice development in there. And it would be nice to save the businesses there and possibly provide those businesses a space in a new building. And that's about it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you for bringing this to forward. Thank you.
Okay, yes.
Commissioner Woods has his hand raised again.
Yes, Commissioner Woods.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I forgot to ask a question on the rear of the property, the MDC right of way, and there's some sort of brook. So my question is, are you in the wetlands? Is there a setback that you're meeting? You didn't really address any of that I heard. Maybe I missed it, but and maybe if you can't answer it, the applicant, maybe Paul can answer it, our planner.
It's not encroaching on the wetlands, so it's fully respected. There's no encroachment in the wetlands.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, there is some upland review area in that rear parking lot existing. So if we get an application, we'll see where it falls, and it may require a wetland permit as well.
Okay, thank you.
Paul, do you have anything else?
So I think that mixed use component is something to consider with this parcel. Again, it might not be a mixed use building. It might be mixed use of the site. There might be a way to kind of look at that and how the site is oriented. I know that the commission has assessed how stuff shifts on the site, how it's developed. So right now, I kind of did a back of the envelope calculation of what the density would be. So at an 80-20 split between regular for market rate and affordable would be about 194 units in yield on the current almost 10-acre parcel. So a mix of the site could help with either whether the commission is okay with density being increased, or whether that would work with a mix on the site. That's something I think you have discussed tonight and looked at, parking standards, and had those discussions for the owner just to take a look at and to consider. It's also to consider how these uses work with each other. I did note in the staff report to get kind of an opinion from the commission or feel for how you view the elderly units. Again, it says buildings for the elderly. I'm not a big proponent of actually having completely segregated buildings. I don't think it builds a good community. I don't think it builds a good area. Having areas Maybe having part of a lower, if it is a building in the back, and having the ground floor being ADA accessible units, which makes sense, close to amenity space, close to everything. I think that's how I would see a design of the buildings, but to get some opinions from the commission too. So as they move forward and look at it again, because they're really looking at, again, how is this unit mix combined with the density going to pencil out at the end of the day? What they presented and, what we've discussed with the applicant is this is what, pencils out for them as they're looking at for development. And that's why the densities are shown higher. And that's why they're coming to you and saying, what is your feel on the density, the height? It sounds like there's kind of a mix of different heights. There might be ways, again, in looking at the way you design a site, maybe 4 stories immediately adjacent to the roadway is not what the community feels like. But there's ways to step buildings, there's ways in the back, there are ways to look at site design that has the same feeling as a 3-story building, but does allow that different density of development and allow for that smaller footprint. Because, as you increase the footprint of a building, the more expensive it gets, the more area it takes up, the less is available for commercial or an amenity space. So these are all items to consider. Again, adding some housing to downtown does help those retailers that are there, does help those restaurants that are there. It's really just a matter of density, density in how the site is developed out. So those are the items to kind of consider. Again, we work with the applicant and we'll continue to work with the applicant as they come through with iterations on these plans.
Thank you. I do have one question, Chairman Sobieski. You're assuming that you're gonna have street parking on Lowry and on Constance Lee?
Yeah, but that's not included in the parking
No,
calculation.
I understand that. So let me get this, so I'm clear on this. So if a visitor comes, they're not gonna park in these spots back here. They're gonna be parking on the street. Is that correct?
So the spots, again, the way we envision it is they would not be assigned spots. And what we've seen is that in a lot of the communities that we've gone to, they're not full to capacity. So there will be space for visitors available in the parking lot, but as well as on the public street that currently has no other users really using where you would normally get visitors in the evening hours. Post office is closed. It's really, there's nothing else necessarily going on in the street there in front of this.
Not at the present time, but I don't know what's gonna happen to this building across the street.
Right. I think part of that building is staying manufacturing or warehousing. I think that's the plan for part of it. There is, we did look at this when that building so that was the first iteration, was when that building was for sale, when that manufacturer shut down. We actually met with them to see if this is something that they wanted to join together and try to create a real master plan. Ultimately, they got an offer for their building that, money talks, and they said, okay, we're selling, we're not interested in redeveloping. I think the person who bought that building is adding some retail component on the Main Street side, if I'm not mistaken, and then keeping the warehousing side. But just to address all of your points, the purpose of the coming in this evening was to hear those viewpoints, right? So obviously we've had, and like I've said earlier, we've actually some of the tenants we put in, we've actually personally invested into, and not for a slice of their business, but invested into their success. Unfortunately, they have not been able to see some of the community support that they would have hoped to see. Others have been successful, and we've had a mix. We invested a lot in a e-commerce fulfillment center that 6 months later decided that they were no longer going to operate. So we've had our ups and downs with the site, and especially with retail at the site. I know that there are some that are successful, will continue to be successful. But as far as also attracting new retail, we have not had, and again, this is just giving you the temperature of the market, of the commercial market. We have not had a lot of interest in. If we had interest, obviously for us, from an asset acquisition value, it makes the most sense to tenant the existing structures. We didn't build them; we just renovated them, and so it would make the most sense for us. But unfortunately, we don't see the support, especially with the large anchor space. Chopping up large anchor space is prohibitively expensive, and again, that's where you kind of like bring in those storage type users where they'll take all the space. That's not what we want to see. I think it's a great feedback on the mixed use. And going back to our original thought on the site was mixed use, but then because of the lukewarm reaction that we've been getting to trying to tenant even the small shop space. That's why we really pulled back from that and said, hey, let's go all residential. But obviously hearing that is really good. One thing I will point out about commercial, because that's what I also do in another life, is that the ceiling heights are usually required to be much higher. So with a again, even if an amenity lobby, you're probably looking at 12 feet max on first floor. For really decent retail, they're looking usually for 14 feet. So it would even potentially raise the height, especially of whatever's going to have that street front retail, because you will need a little bit more space for that first floor. So that's just one point. The thing with the parking lot, and I want to ask this, is, you know, we've especially when I've done developments in other areas, they actually don't want to see parking lots in front of buildings. They want that buildings really up against the public right of way, because they don't want to look out at asphalt. So a lot of times what you're doing is you're adding all this additional screening and buffers and shrubs to basically eliminate the view of the asphalt. So that's something that, again, I would come back to you guys and say, is that something that you really think you would want? Because again, we don't want to create asphalt to then just hide it. And that is something that, again, it does come up a lot when you try to put a parking lot in front of a commercial business. That's also why we wanted to do the street parking. That would slow people down on Lowry Place as well. So I know it sounds counterintuitive, but the more, and I know there was the other hearing before, that was maybe an extreme example of constricting traffic flow with the 1-lane road. But by adding some street parking, it would create more of that integration into the downtown feel. Right now, that part of Lowry, again, we've been there a long time. It just kind of feels like a raceway or something. Like it just doesn't have that street front feel. So we want to create that street front feel, you know, street lights, like real street lights, not the ones off the power poles, to try to really bring that street front. As far as to just address the building height. So the one thing that we've looked at is kind of what and Paul, thanks for bringing it up, is what does pencil? What makes the pro forma work to actually be able to go out to the markets and get financing to go and actually construct something like this? It's almost impossible without that fourth level. And that's unfortunate, but that is the reality of today's construction info.
Could you say that again?
Without having that fourth level, the additional density, it's almost impossible to
make it vibrant,
to make it make sense.
Yep.
And that's why we put it in there. It's not just some arbitrary, hey, why 4 floors? You need that for the pro forma. Adding in the commercial units probably could work because, again, some of those street front units, especially if it was, you know, the street front on building B, it's not taking away a lot of residential, but it does need that again, I call it medium density because it is still a 10-acre site. So it's not hugely dense, but it does need that in order to support the design. But again, that's why we're here. So we want to have that input, because we don't want to waste any more of Tony's time saying, here's all these magical things we would like. Now we can take that feedback and actually go and create a better plan. But I know Paul had some points from the staff report. Maybe you want to just bring in if it makes sense. I don't know.
Specific, yeah. It's so in thinking about kind of as we're discussing that activation of the street, and it's what we really want Lowry Place to be as a community. As right now, it is the cut through. We kind of do that as a community just to get around the corner of Cedar to go through and cut around. There is the property across the street, which is currently in a transition. There's work to be done. I have been working with the applicant. I actually spoke with them yesterday regarding that property. And, you know, whether that part that's occupied by data mail eventually in the future might transition over to something that would, again, turn this more into a pedestrian street. Right now, everything is focused away from the street. So this could be a first step in that. There's also the opportunity in these buildings, depending on how they're strategically sited, to do a combination of amenity space for the residents and things that can be open to the public. I've seen some success in that. You know, it's kind of, been kind of used everywhere, but people tend to put their gyms and they tend to have it for the residents, and they might have a portion of it open for the public. I've seen a lot of proposals of that. The market is moving a little in that direction, but there is the question about how much retail can the site support? And with this type of design and with this type of what is going to be the desire for that, you know, when it's located right against the street, without parking immediately adjacent to it, you only get certain retailers who will go into those spaces because they're primarily going to be driven by foot traffic in an area that we want to drive foot traffic to, but isn't quite there yet now. So this is kind of that first transitional piece to think about how this will work. So there'll have to be some kind of conglomeration between what we view it in the future and what it can be now to make it work for the property to actually be developed for that first step to take place. So that's kind of how I'm looking at the site. Again, as I said, with the 4 stories, they did show how it kind of looked. There are some more ways that could be brought forward into the commission of what it would really have an impact in the front. It does get, there are ways to step it back, but then again, every architectural feature you add to building makes it look better, adds an additional cost. There is those step backs you can do, but in my talks with builders, that adds an exponential amount of cost to actually that building and how it's constructed. So things have to be strategically thought how they're put together. Again, back buildings being higher, there is a large area of buffer in between them right now with trees. How they would look, I would want to see when an application comes in that cross section to the neighborhood behind it as well. What's going to be seen? How is it going to be viewed? How is this going to all link together? So as far as the elderly units, it does sound like there's some agreement that yes, it should be integrated. And that was kind of something that I was looking for as well. And it's just to really just think about the density, think about what could be built there, and how it'll work at the end for a design.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Minor had.
Go right ahead.
Commissioner Minor?
Just real quick, and I agree with you in terms of what you had to say with your pro forma. That's what it all comes down to. But to Paul's point, my vision of it, I think the POCD vision is more of a service, nightlife, restaurant, walkability, less of a retail per se component to it. And I think the market is there, and just walking it over on Market Square, a block over, or Cedar Street over with TJ's, where you've got, residential upstairs of only a single story, but you have a very active restaurant and nightlife 4 nights of a week, 5 nights of a week. And to be able to take that and shift it to the south end, and especially if it's able to be done in conjunction with a larger component of 50 acres available to the east, a new owner to the north, I just think that the opportunities are something we haven't seen.
Yeah, and that's part of why, kind of said there, we see it as a catalyst.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Minor. Commissioner Payne?
Yes, Commissioner Payne here. Question for the town planner. How does the density on the applicant's proposed density compare to the density at 3333?
So that I look up specifically. Eric, do you remember the exact numbers in your mind? If not, I'll bring up.
I do not remember the exact number, but they did there was a text amendment done for the PD zone for density at one point.
And then I agree with Commissioner Minor. The 2030 plan calls for restaurants and that type of stuff. And it does say that we should discourage a mixed use site compared to a mixed use building. So I think we should be careful on that.
Meaning not just multiple uses on the site, but rather contained in one building.
Correct.
There might be strategic ways.
The only time, sometimes it's difficult for a restaurant if they're in a residential building sometimes because of the cooking and stuff like that. I'm not sure if the commissioners would agree that maybe that could be a separate building, but there again, then it would take up too much land space. So if it could be incorporated into a building, then that would be the best.
The
density. I was just saying, so the density on that one is, it's 1,500 square feet per unit. That's the density that is in the PD zone.
Okay, and is that compared to?
This is 2,500 square foot per unit. So it's not quite double, but it's, 1,000 square foot more.
So in that zone, in that other building, it is more dense on a per square
Correct.
foot.
Yeah,
lot
3333
area. Yes.
Berlin Turnpike, yes.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a comment?
Yes, go ahead.
Yep. So just coincidentally, we're the architects for 3333, the retail portion of the site. So familiar with you and good to be back in Newington. We also were the architects for a decent part of the retail of Blueback Square. And I go back to the contention of the merchants that were pre-existing who were opposed to Blueback Square, feeling that this new development of mixed use was going to pull all of their business away from them and onto the other side of Main Street, which, as you probably know, did not happen. And the thriving part of the center now is on the older part of the village center. And I draw a parallel with that experience a little bit with your site, because I think that if we were to go 100% residential on this site, you might have your business owners and potential development of a mixed use village area happen in a better way, in a faster way, in a more successful way than trying to put retail on this site. And let me elaborate a little bit more, because as you invite retail onto a multifamily site, you have to think about deliveries. You've got to think about dumpsters. You've got to think about servicing those environments. And not only does that diminish the amount of, and the parking, which you mentioned earlier. So all of those things are going to greatly diminish the yield of the site and also make it into a different type of site when you introduce ways to get rid of refuse, for instance, large, dumpsters on site and those trucks that have to service them. You have not the most dense center market square in the world. There's lots of room, I think, for more development there. And I think this would foster that retail development as opposed to trying to put it all on one site. It's just my experience and thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.
Any
Chairman.
other commissioner comments?
Yeah, if I could
Yes,
finish.
Commissioner Payne.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Payne speaking. Do we have any flexibility? Does this commission have any flexibility on the density levels? 2,500 compared to the PD zone, which was 1,500 square foot. We have a little flexibility with our parking. Do we have any flexibility with that or not?
It would require a regulation change to be able to do that. And it might be, and kind of similar with the parking. Parking, we have a lot of flexibility with what abuts the parking for the town center, the actual Constitution Square. We have the commission has a lot of flexibility there because it's been designed to be really integrated. This site does stand a little apart from that. It's the same discussion I've actually had with the Keeney building as they're continuing to work through their site plan. They're looking at parking as well. So it is something for us to consider because that is one item that has been potentially slowing the progress of that continuing to its final site plan. So that's something I think we would look at, and having that ability to look at parking and look at it by the mixture of uses instead of just having our table and saying it must be X, Y, and Z, giving the applicant that flexibility to look at how the uses are going to be put together, look at what's near it, and be able to study it and say, this is the demand for the site with concurrence with the TBZ is a potential way to work forward with that. Again, it's taking it and looking at it and saying, what are the actual realities of what's proposed versus the numbers that were picked out of an ITE manual in 1990. There's some difference in reality there.
And do we have, is the Lowry Place Road wide enough for us to add parking on the road? And is that something that might be good for all businesses in town besides this applicant?
I believe it would. I've had very preliminary discussions with the town engineer, again, Google Map level discussions. It's something that would have to be discussed with the police department as well, because they have to sign off on that. Now, there might be a little room left in the right of way if a curb needs to be moved, working with an applicant, especially if something is drastically changed in the area. It's potentially a discussion that when across the street comes and talks to you for the Keeney building, they might be asking for the same thing in the future. I'm discussing with them. Again, it would change what Lowry Place is as far as the cut through versus a street that again is more activated. So it's to think about how these things work together. Again, if the commission is open to the idea of, again, regulations for parking that really look at an actual analysis of the site rather than just those point blank, it's this X, Y, Z, that's it. I'm definitely, I agree with that. I think that's a good method to go forward. As far as density, we are going to be looking at the town center as a study. And hopefully we get good responses back from proposals for that. That's upcoming. So these are things that we are looking at.
Just one last final comment. I think we're at a critical stage here with the development of this parcel, along with trying to redevelop the Keeney parcel, and then knowing that the Hartford Hospital property is coming up for sale. And I think that between the council and this board and the town planning, I think we should have somewhat of a plan and a concept for these three properties. I think it's very important to, if we don't do something right, then it's not going to be an advantage for the town center. And I think these three properties are going to be key to really change the town center. And we need to do it right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Well said.
May I just?
Yes, Commissioner.
Commissioner Guffey, the gentleman on your co-art up there, Tony.
Yeah, he's the architect.
You brought up a good point. I didn't even think of it till you said it about this. We looked at it wrong in a way of how the catalyst, this might be that one thing that stays X because of them already seeing, like what Commissioner Payne said, the other Ys and Zs. So maybe giving this commission a little more info on that concept. Because I didn't even think about it. Prior to coming here, I was in construction for 25 years and I've been out of it for about 8 years now and didn't look back. But that concept of you're here for a reason, get some input, and it's mainly for maybe some other reasons, not alluding to anything, but this.
This is our own site.
The concept of this, knowing that how it fits with our density and stuff like that. Like I didn't even think of his concept was the more you add in, the more you want as a commission of mixed use, the less viable. And now we're still sitting without the knowing that side of it. Like I didn't even think of what he had said, and now I'm thinking about it, like, wow, when you bring in Blueback Square, before Blueback Square came up, when I was a teenager, I lived there and it was a field.
One of the things that's so interesting to me, and I think it's such a huge asset to Newington, is that communal parking. It's so rare to see in a downtown center. It's not structured parking, so it still keeps that open feel, but I think it's such a huge amenity to all those smaller storefronts that it is something that I think as you continue to see more development, that's where I know you say it's fully tenanted today, but again, if you ask those landlords, I'm sure they'll say, oh, I wish I could have this. Or if you ask people in the community what they wish they had in that downtown area, I think you would find that maybe that some of the existing businesses, although they have perfectly valid reasons for existing, might not be in the best location being there. I know that there's definitely things that would be services if there were more residential people who could walk in those areas that would thrive. What Tony said, obviously, with the adding in that commercial component, yes, you have dumpsters, you have employee parking, all those things that need to be considered. Obviously, I appreciate the flexibility of everybody to say, hey, look, we can look at density, we can look at parking. Ultimately, we want it to be successful. We want it to be well adopted. I know there's never going to be consensus support for everything. We want it to be successful for everyone. We believe that it has to be a win-win for everyone. And that's why we wanted to come. I think that for us, going back and looking at, okay, maybe which of the tenants that we have today, it makes sense also financially, not just, just based on tenure, but financially to try to put into something like that. When we did look at it originally, we wanted to keep like the chiropractic, all the different things. Now, the economics of things change, but we were looking at, again, just going back into the way past, we were looking at some medical office component, because these are things that have a lot of great users and that integrate well. But ultimately, we felt in consultation with Tony that his vast experience doing a lot of projects like this all over Connecticut, but also in Massachusetts, he's done a bunch, and he's seen what has made it, what's been successful, and what has kind of been only mediocrely received. And the last thing that we want to see is a bunch of empty storefronts, and not for lack of trying, but for lack of interest. So, I appreciate you bringing that up, that there is a very low vacancy rate. Unfortunately, not been our experience. We've had a lot of vacancy for many years, but we will definitely take that into consideration as we can further develop the plan and really bring forward a full application in front of the board.
Okay. Any other commissioner comments? Planner?
I think a lot of the concept of mixed use is providing the retail component of it, but a lot of it is activation of the streetscape. It's how the road is, it's how the area feels. It's that sense of place. And that's actually, as you go through the POCD, that's the biggest theme, is that sense of place of the town center. So it's to think about how this design interacts with that, kind of a previous commissioner comment of having, someone right at that window 15 feet away from you, that might not activate it in the same sense as another design. So it's to think about but that's fine tuning a proposal. The proposal is at a large, it's at a high level, 2,000 square foot, looking at the site down and saying, okay, here's general density. But as you move forward, I think it's just think about what is the sense, what does it do? What's its relation to the streetscape? And what is going to be the final product at the end of the day? And I think that can potentially, if it bears that retail does based upon your study, there could be a way to work it in. If you find based upon it will not pencil out that no retail works, but there may be to do some, I think that's that further flushing out that we all like to see.
They would have great, an amazing architect, really, who's so forward thinking that we can't wait to kind of get back to the drawing board. That's fantastic.
Thank you. Open this up to the public comment.
Yeah, so, my recommendation is just either you can choose to open it up to the public now, or as kind of noted, we do have a public comment section. As I said, the applicant.
Any comments under the public comment section? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All.
Thank you.
I forgot to, I skipped something accidentally. Back under Article 7, TPC regular meeting minutes of 10/1/24. 1/10/24. I see we have that under documents, PDF.
We did that one.
We did it.
Yeah, and we made some corrections to it.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Thank you.
The only, that'll work actually, yeah. I said the only other item, I think it'd be good to hear it after that one. Back and forth, we've had some like informal meetings where there has been back and forth between, I think it's good just to get some feedback under public comment, and also for the property owner to hear that feedback and kind of be able to incorporate it in. So there, I don't believe did we include that one on there? I got too much stuff in front of me.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
Yeah, okay. So we did receive an application just for a freestanding sign. It's not on your agenda because it was received recently. It will be put in the future, but just to let you know, we do have one. Do you remember the exact address? Yeah, we pretty much just got it. So
Yes,
again,
it's
that's the only item in the
It's
future.
at the Shuko building for a new tenant. It's at the Shuko building on Payne Road for a new tenant.
Current land use applications, any?
Other than what we have and other than the Shuko building, that's it. And then the next item, it's asked a question regarding cigar lounges to the commission. So I was approached by a request from an existing business who operates a current retail cigar and smoke shop to have a cigar lounge, a small cigar lounge, about 7 seats. In looking at our regulation, they're not defined anywhere in the Newington zoning regulations. There actually is very few regulations out there that really define them. As I look across multiple towns, the only one I could find was really Hartford. Multiple have gone in as like a retail service, and they have been actually approved as retail. Montville, I reached out to them, and they had one that was really recently approved, and they just allowed it into the zone. There is something to consider. Again, this is in the business town center zone, the area that we're just talking about. Kind of to get some opinion, get some feedback from the commission, really a zoning determination on, do you view them as either a use just regularly permitted as an accessory use, or again, there is a potential for a special permit use, places of assembly. It says for recreation such as health club and dance studios, but I've actually seen places of assembly used again for these smaller type of uses. Again, you're bringing people are occupying the space when you have that. How would the commission view this use, and how would you like it to proceed forward?
Commissioner, yes, Commissioner Payne.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Payne speaking. I think it's clearly an accessory use, in my opinion, and I think staff should just handle it on their own.
Any other commissioner comments?
Yes.
I have one question. It's just for cigar use only, no liquor.
So yes, that's how I would approve it. I believe we have separate regulations for liquor, although the state did just change the law that allows cigar bars to actually be in existence again, cigar lounges that become bars. So that is something I would look into, and if a zoning permit was issued, it would be clearly issued that non-alcohol. And
Commissioner Woods has his hand raised.
Commissioner Claffey? Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Woods?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually agree with Commissioner Payne. I think it's an accessory use. But it's my understanding, and this is the only way that I would consider an accessory use, that it's interior. So it's inside the building. The smoking is not done outside on a patio. As long as it's interior, inside the building, staff can handle it.
Commissioner Claffey?
Commissioner Claver here. I would ask the town planner to look at the town of Berlin's. They have a few cigar lounges. I don't know how they're regulated. I do know that the state regulates the smoking versus no liquor, and if they are making a change, but currently you cannot have liquor by state law inside a cigar lounge for sale. You can have it for consumption, bring your BYOB, but not for sale. But I know Berlin has 2 cigar lounges, and the town of Cromwell has 1, and the town of Southbury has 1 or 2. So there is language out there that towns are using in the state. I don't disagree that it could be an accessory, because most of them sell a product, tobacco, that's regulated by the state, and then has a secondary use of the lounge.
Commissioner Meyer? No.
I just have a question, Commissioner Pascarelli, about smoking being allowed indoors and, just the health codes and things like that, because I don't know the codes. That would be my question as to whether or not, it affects the health of the employees. Is there going to be adjacent, I don't know,
Ventilation.
people who, in other units or something, who are going to get the smoke, and is it, I don't know if that's a concern for the general idea. Or if it's a case by case where you look at that.
Is looking at, again, the health codes should have it. Again, I'm not completely versed in health codes. I will reach out to the health district and get even more information. I was not able to get it before the time. And here, again, this was the first foray into the zoning determination. If you said you wanted more information, I'd probably bring the applicant in front of you under a pre-app. But again, this is the determination. I will work with the health department, the health district, regarding that. And again, building code will also come into effect. I do know that, for example, the applicant who's looking to do this did actually have a hood system that was part of a previous restaurant use. So there's an opportunity, again, to work in the filtration with that. So it's not just, a dense area that doesn't have filtration.
Commissioner, Chairman Sobieski, I would definitely have you look at the health codes first, and then see if you look at the, Mr. Claffey said, a couple of cigar lounges. But I do agree it is accessory use, and once we get a definition, or once you do the research, it should be something you can handle administratively.
Sounds good to me. Thank you.
Communications from CROG, Mr. Planner.
Yep, so the CROG letters are in your packet. I know from advance talking with Commissioner Pascarelli that there was a specific question that she had regarding the one open space regulation that was proposed in there. So we will actually take a look and provide that. If anyone has any questions regarding the CROG letters, specific uses in there, again, these are provided to show you trends and things that are going on in the region as well. If you see something that sparks your interest, definitely let me know. I will get a copy of it for you, send it in an email, or if you would think something as a whole for the commission, I can send it out to everybody.
Town letters, Mr. Planner?
Those are the CROG letters.
Those are the CROG letters, so yes,
Okay.
you know, I won't go in specifically on them, but if there's any questions, please ask, or if you want copies, let me know.
Any questions, commissioners? No? Okay. All right, now we're into,
One item, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
sorry about that. The one item I had discussed before, so there is one communication from the town council liaison, and she's here tonight. I actually can hand you out specific copies of it too. So this was actually discussed at last night's town council meeting.
Isabel Terrace, and I'm here actually because there was something I think of interest to land use boards, any land use boards that was brought up from the Open Space Committee to the town council last night. And just, I'm sure you're all aware of, Commissioner Pascarelli is on the commission, the Open Space Commission, Town Councilor Mitch Page, Bernadette Conway, Sandra Goldstein, and myself. I think I have them all. We became aware of the fact that the Hartford Hospital property is up for sale. And, you know, everybody's aware that open space is a priority, both expressed not just by the commission, but by the residents in survey after, you know, town meetings, whatever. And as an open space committee, we felt we shouldn't be reactive. We should be proactive to expressing our opinions, concerns, recommendations regarding potential development for any kind of property that has open space value. Again, as an open space committee, we don't have decision making, but we do feel it's incumbent upon it as part of our charge to, if we have comments or recommendations or requests, to bring it forward to the proper committees or commissions that can perhaps act on it. So we wrote a letter, I'll read it, to get into the public record to the town council. And also we felt it's incumbent, particularly with the discussion that was had tonight regarding other potential development going on in Newington Center, to bring our opinion or our concerns or our recommendations regarding the Hartford Hospital property. So this is to Jamie Trevathan, acting town manager from the Town of Newington Open Space Committee, submitted on their behalf by Paul Dixon, town planner, dated January 18th, 2024, subject Hartford Healthcare Property Sale and Redevelopment. The Open Space Committee offers the following statement for consideration by the town manager and town council concerning the sale and redevelopment of the Hartford Healthcare property on Patricia de Nova Drive. The Open Space Committee evaluates the town's needs, possibilities, and resources regarding open space acquisition and preservation. As an advisory board, the commission can choose to operate in a reactive mode, addressing only items upon request of the council. Given the value of open space in Newington, we choose to work proactively. This includes recognizing and seizing opportunities consistent with the POCD and the expressed desire of residents regarding the management of open space. The Open Space Committee believes it is within our purview to comment on planning and development of open space parcels in town. The Open Space Commission is aware that the Hartford Healthcare property is up for sale and redevelopment. The location and size of this property are unique.
As commission members, we recognize the value and significance of this piece of property. Appropriate development will be a significant asset to the town and serve as an impetus to revitalize the town center, and we fully support this. We hope that as town leadership discusses the future of this parcel with the owners and interested developers, open space considerations will be part of the conversation. Conserving open land and choosing carefully where development occurs is not contrary to the economic benefits envisioned by the development of this parcel. Instead, it is vital to the town center's function, livability, and aesthetic character. We encourage development that will be in scale with the surrounding community and compatible with the adjacent land of Cedar Mountain. We fully respect the rights of property owners and developers. However, we also recognize that the town council and other land use boards can influence development in Newington by communicating, encouraging, and/or incentivizing developers to adopt a vision that reflects the town's POCD. Thank you for this opportunity to express the Open Space Commission's concerns regarding this significant, rare, and transformative redevelopment opportunity. Just a few additional comments. The town center is small, so obviously any development is going to impact it visually, as well as impact the vitality and influence on the remainder of the town. And we do understand, and this commission in particular has been very eloquent in stating that private property is private property. And the rights of the owners can, as long as it's, within the zoning regulations and whatever, can do what they feel is best, both for their economic feasibility, but most property owners do also want to satisfy some of the needs of the community or the wishes of the community. And the commission respects this. We don't have the power, nor are we trying to dictate. But as we want to bring our concerns forward to commissions like this, the town council and other land making committees, our land use committees, because you have the capacity to influence, not to, direct or dictate, but to influence the type of development that can occur. And you can influence through incentives, let's say, maybe incenting a certain type of development that's in concert or harmony with the POCD. You can use it by your conversations, by how you interact, by meetings with the developers and land property owners, by virtue of your persuasiveness to get some buy-in from developers on how working with the town cooperatively and recognizing the importance and the value of some type of open space consideration in any type of development will not only enhance their, it won't take away from the economic benefits to a property owner, but it might actually increase it because it's going to be recognizing not only the financial aspects, but the quality of life aspects. And many people, many residents, many businesses are willing to pay for that as well, or recognize that there's a tangible dollar amount to that. So what we're basically hoping is that as this property develops, the Hartford Hospital, but also in concert with like the discussion we had tonight, that you'll consider in your discussions or when you're questioning applicants, whatever, to have them consider the value of quality of life in partnership along with economic benefits as they go forward with that development planning. So I mean, Gia, if you have any other.
Thank you very much, Councillor Woodrico. I think, what's great is that we have mentioned the POCD several times in just tonight's meeting, and it's a very clearly stated objective for the 2030 plan is to really make every effort possible to, improve, create a greenway, preserve any open space opportunities, and really bring all of these bodies together to work toward that goal. So I think, by putting it, maybe it might sound naive, but by putting it out there, I think the hope is that we would attract the kind of developers who would, want to support that vision. The center is, I think, something like 44 acres or something like that. I was looking at the POCD map, those little maps on my phone, you know, and that property, the Hartford Hospital property is 45 acres. So it's such an enormous transformative opportunity. Yeah.
I think as commissioners, you can shape and mold, I think, ideas in the developer's head as they move forward with what they want. I think there's a way that you can kind of plant seeds to get kind of what we envision as well.
Thank you, Councilwoman Paprika. Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Payne here. You're right. This is a very unique piece of property. And for this property to get developed, it's in a PL zone. And a developer would have to give us a complete layout of what he proposes for the whole 50 acres. And I think that just the nature of that particular site is going to have natural open space throughout it. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised when a developer comes in. I think that there's quite a bit of it that's going to probably remain open space. And I agree with you guys that it is an important thing. And I think that site can get developed, but still have some open space on it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Payne. Any other commissioner comments? Okay. Open to the public now?
Yep, I think the next item on the agenda is public participation.
Like me there.
Couple online that have their hands raised. Go ahead, Mr. Fox. You can unmute yourself.
Muted. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Michael J. Fox, 1901 Main Street. And first of all, I want to applaud the Rates family for their commitment to the town. I mean, once they bought the site and did what they could do with it, they haven't abandoned it. And so they came up with this. I also want to applaud the commission. As a former commissioner, I always like to see things like this. And I think Commissioner Payne and the entire commission are correct. This is quite an opportunity, not only thinking of the POCD, but thinking of the town center itself. But like the chairman, I as a private citizen would not be inclined to support a fourth story unless we did have mixed use, not necessarily quote unquote retail, but possibly maybe a medical and professional use on the bottom floor. And I think between the Hartford properties, this property and Keeney, the center can really come to its fruition. Hopefully fairly soon, and before I'm ready to leave town, so to speak. So, and now it's past my bedtime. Thank you all. I'm very proud of this commission. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Mr. Fox.
Do you want to go to the room? You want to jump back and forth? It's up to you.
Anybody wishing to talk at public participation? State your name and address for the record.
59 Cambria Avenue. I went to school in Newington. I raised my kids here. I'm raising my granddaughter here. I'm worried about where the kids are going to go to school. There's over 1,000 units being built. Where are these kids going to go to school? My granddaughter's special needs, and there's already been a couple times that she couldn't participate in an after-school program because there was no para for her. And that's my big concern. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Eric?
Online, we have Mr. Tallard. Go ahead. Mr. Tallard?
Hi, I'm sorry. I didn't unmute. I apologize. Bob Tallard. Yeah, the gentleman that was sitting at the mic there, I didn't catch his name, that was speaking about they wanted to build something that's where the local market is, right? Is that where he was talking?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't catch his name though.
His first name is Orr. What's his?
Radis.
Radis? Okay. So he represents that particular space that wants to be worked on. He's speaking for them, for the owner.
Correct.
Yeah.
He's the owner.
Okay. Oh, he is the owner. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Here's the problem. Newington is, and the lady was just there speaking about the 1,000 new apartments that still haven't been filled yet. And this guy wants to come in and change it from 3 floors. It has to be, the zoning is right now, because I'm writing notes as you guys were talking, I've been recording it, to 4 floors. So everybody wants to do something different. Our zoning is 34 feet. He wants to change it to 38 feet. And even though we changed administrations, I feel that nothing has changed really in Newington, because you approved, all of you, it was unanimous, of another cannabis retail outlet in Newington, and the people, obviously you didn't listen to the people at Churchill that live there in those condos there, because most of them spoke up against it, and they were very sincere and direct about it, and you guys just blew them off. You didn't care, and it seems like business as usual. And yeah, I get it. From the 2 places now, you get $42,000 and added to the mill rate a month, and this would add more to it. I get it, but it sounds like that spot is in a bad place, and you should really consider it, along with what they want to do with these apartments at Lowry Place. I don't think any zoning law should be changed. It's ridiculous. Newington is prime real estate, and as far as Hartford Healthcare that Gail Petracco was mentioning, that's 44 square acres. We got a lot of traffic on Cedar Street as it is, and we're just lucky. We're one serious accident on Fenn Road and corner of Cedar Street from blocking down maybe 1/4 of the entire town during when it's rush hour traffic is what I'm trying to say. Rush hour traffic, and we need to tread carefully, very carefully here with these businesses. This is prime real estate, and nobody should be getting any tax abatements. Thank God I didn't hear that word tonight, because Newington is prime real estate, like I said, and we should be changing any zoning laws for anybody, and they should be listening to the people of the town of Newington. I've been living here since 1956 when my parents moved me here. So we've been paying taxes to the town of Newington for a long time. So I just think you guys aren't listening. It changed administrations, but everybody's going on deaf ears. And Paul, if you're there, I want to stop in tomorrow, Paul, and get a copy of the notes for tonight, because I couldn't make it there because I didn't feel well, but I'm watching it and I'm recording it. But if you get a copy for me of tonight's minutes, so I can pick it up tomorrow.
So again, normally, Mr. Chairman, there isn't normally back and forth between public comment. I will say that minutes will be ready for tonight within 7 days.
Within 7 days, Mr. Tallard.
They're not immediately.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. All right. That's about all I wanted to say. Oh, last thing, he mentioned parking on the street. This is not New Britain. There should be no parking on the street. We have no parking on the street from, what is it, November 1st until like April 1st. You get a ticket if you park on the street because you get to plow. So I think that's another thing that, he just glossed over. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice here. But I think we need to take a step back and take it real slow, guys. Okay. I'm going to go because my voice is gone. Thanks so much for listening. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Tallard.
A couple of people online, I don't know if everybody in the room wants to speak.
Anybody else from the audience wish to speak? We're going to alternate back and forth. Please state your name and address for the record.
Michael Moreau, 110 Joseph Lane in South Windsor, Connecticut. I'll be real quick. I've been working on this project for about 8 months now. And I going back and forth with the realtor about putting in a pickleball club here.
in the local market. And I also offer, I talked to him outside, the owner here, about buying the property actually a year after we get this club up and going, we work things out. And he was unaware of that. I would like to actually buy the property, leave it the way it is, actually bring it back to life. Fix the parking lot, fix the building, bring in new tenants, keep it the way it is. He was unaware of that part of it. He knew about the pickleball club, but from what I gather from him, they're pretty set on the direction they're going right now. But I did kind of joke with him about maybe putting the first floor. All I need is 24,000 square feet for a pickleball club and housing. I thought that it was a joke, but no, I do. I've been working on this for a long time, and I'm going to do what I can to try to change their mind and just keep that property the same and put the club in there. So,
thank you.
Yep. And there's a restaurant too there. There'll be whole golf simulators. Keeney.
Eric.
Go
ahead, Councilman Lord.
It's already being.
Good evening. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Good evening, Matthew Plord, 258 Audubon Avenue. A couple of things. This was a very exciting meeting with a lot of richness to it. First, before I discuss my feelings around Lowry Place, I want to affirm, and pardon me, I am a bit ill, so pardon if my voice is a bit strained, but Mr. Town Planner, I look forward to hearing the results of those discussions that you're able to convene after the fact with folks at the Churchill Bridge Condo Association and the landlord in that area to allay some of their concerns and come to some kind of amicable position agreement between those, to any degree that you can convene those kinds of discussions. I think it's very healthy given the concerns raised by those residents here this evening. With regards to the Lowry Place, the Lowry Plaza property, I should say, I also want to thank the owners for their commitment to the center of town and having such vision in this proposal. A lot of very, very important discussion was had and a lot of very important considerations that need to be made. But it is really encouraging to see such a sizable again, vision for what that parcel could entail. I think we really are, as echoing what many commissioners have said this evening, at a watershed moment when it comes to our town center. Not just the Lowry Plaza property that was discussed this evening, but also Kinney Manufacturing, and that was also discussed, the Hartford Hospital parcel as well when it is available. Like Commissioner Payne and others said, I think we need to do it right. And so, especially when it comes to our town center and its attractiveness for our young people, for the many of our seniors that already live in the area at Market Square and potentially at other developments that may come, it is a watershed moment. And I also want to echo the concerns around the Hartford Hospital property and affirm that the council and the commission should be working very closely together to enhance the quality of life in the area and to create community enrichment and recognize that housing, economic development, and open space need to coexist in a thriving and diverse community. And it's going to take a group effort, like someone spoke earlier about their difficulty with a family member, and the schools, the council will need to step up with regards to that as well. But it's very important that we engage in those conversations. So I know the POCD does call for a community charrette for the town center. And I think now is exactly the time when we should be initiating those kinds of processes while all of this is about to happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman Plord. Anyone else wishing to speak from the Yes, please come up and state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Chris Pacey, 44 Ivy Lane. I talked to a lot of neighbors, Northwood, Southwood, Centerwood, Ivy Forest. I know a lot of people in town. Just from hearing things on social media, we heard about these developments and stuff like that. And what I can say is we are all up for something new coming into the best market area. But being someone younger who's raising 2 young kids here, we love Market Square. We want to see something like that. For 4-story, housing buildings to go up right above where, Northwood is, it would change the feel of the neighborhood. Part of the reason we selected, Ivy Lane, the Centerwood, Northwood areas, it still has that nice, small, family feel. You start putting all these housing units up, these 4-story buildings all over the place, then you're getting into well, we should just move to New Britain or a city. We like Newington the way it is because it's that small town feel, and a lot of the neighbors feel that same way. We would love to see some nightlife, some restaurants, some, stuff that the kids can walk to. That would be awesome. We want to see it revitalized, but I don't know that putting up huge housing structures and huge complexes like that is the way to go. It may drive some people out of the area that picked this area for a reason. Just my thoughts, and some of the neighbors' thoughts. I hope you guys look at kind of polling some of the areas, maybe doing a survey or maybe talking to more people in the area to get, kind of what they have a sense. And then as far as that hospital building goes, I don't know how far up that goes on the side of the mountain there and stuff like that, but that's a beautiful area. There's beautiful woods. It's a buffer between our nice little neighborhood and the Berlin Turnpike and kind of the center of town. Again, if that gets developed and that gets changed, it kind of changes the feel of that whole neighborhood. And then selfishly speaking, who knows what that's going to do to our home values? We pay good money to be in those homes in that neighborhood. You put up all this stuff around it, and then all of a sudden that neighborhood's not worth the same thing and could hurt some of the families there. That's just my 2 cents. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you. Eric?
Go ahead, Dana.
Hello, Dana Havens, 113 Stoddard Avenue. I was really encouraged to hear the encouragement to make it mixed use. However, when you figure in what might be happening to the Hartford Hospital property, which I'm going to assume since the big state push is to have high density housing, that we're going to get more housing in that area, it could be that a standalone shopping plaza will actually make it once that happens. And I know that he said he had difficulty retaining renters, but he needs to understand too that that building really needs a lot of work. The parking lot needs work, the building needs work. I know one of the business owners had nothing but troubles when he was in there with leaking roofs and water leaking through. So if you were to revamp the entire building, start from scratch, I think you'd get a lot more people in there. And especially if you're going to have housing up behind it where Hartford Hospital property is. So I think, like we were saying, taking a look at the whole area and making a plan is really necessary at this time for everyone's benefit, the current property owners and the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Anyone else wishing to speak here? Yes. Please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Jennifer Rodriguez, 71 Northwood Road. I've grown up in Newington, been here a long time. We moved to the Northwood Road area about 15, 16 years ago, right before our son was born. I am also a teacher in town within Newington. And some of the things that we were thinking about when also talking to our neighbors, that there was a great concern over whether you were looking at the impact, the quality of life of the current residents in that area. I know we keep calling it Lowry Place, but it's Northwood Plaza. You already have apartment buildings there. We all felt that it was a great idea to have affordable housing in that area, but to have it 4 stories high, 3 stories high, overlooking neighborhoods in the area that were purchased because of proximity to the center of town, but allowing a buffer with the ravine that was there. You're going to be having issues with privacy there after that happens if you have these large buildings. And it's really not in line with the aesthetic of the neighborhood, including the apartments that are right next door and the Northwood apartments that are there. This feels more like this is being done more out of greed than actual need of the residents. I just sat next door listening to the impact of the many apartments that are currently already under construction in Newington on the school system. And though I would like to say that our public officials in the past have been supportive of Newington Public Schools and funding Newington Public Schools, we know that that has not been the case, especially over the past 4 or so years. So if we're going to add more housing, more students, increase class sizes, how are we going to ensure that the town is going to be able to support that? We had a woman here who was just talking about her child, her grandchild, and the supports and the cuts and the difficulties that we are already sustaining in the Newington public school system. We're going to continue to add to that, is what I'm hearing. And we have people who have sat on this committee who have been a part of that lack of support for Newington Public Schools. So to roll our eyes at a resident who is making their concerns known is highly inappropriate and unprofessional. So again, it impedes on the area, the aesthetic of the area. We already have apartments in the area. I think we should have more affordable housing in that area, but it should be in line with what we already have. We shouldn't be giving waivers to increase the size or the height of these buildings. And we should honor the residents that have already been in the area and have purchased housing in there and have supported the legislation or the laws that we have that keep the height within a certain limit for the aesthetic of the town. Especially in that area. And I don't think I've ever thought that I would be in agreement with Dana Havens, but Dana, I'm in agreement with you here in terms of the potential for the other areas for development in the center of town. And then the revitalization that could come from where Best Market is currently or the former Best Market. And kind of holding our landlords' feet to the fire and ensuring that they maintain their properties so that we can get businesses in that want to go into those properties. And that's not what's happened in this case. That's pretty much all I have to say on that. So thank you.
Is there anybody online here?
There is. Go ahead, phone number ending 226.
Hi, this is Stuart Calais, 641 Willard Avenue. Thank you for allowing time to speak. You have some really interesting things going on now and great opportunities to move ahead. You have the owners of the Best Market, local market. They're your best bet for developing that space. They own the property. They have a ready-to-go plan, and they've invested in the town. They have a long-term history, and we should be proud that they want to spend more money in that area. Granted, more retail space on the first floor, but I think it's very doable, and don't dismiss them at all because it's a very viable plan. That town center is never going to see other great opportunities, so don't pass them by. Now, when we talked recently at the town council, and there was an idea of turning great open space called Mill Pond Park into basically a large parking lot and a pool area. It has essentially gotten shot down already, if not 10 years ago when people voted 5-1 to put nothing more in that Mill Pond Park, especially a new pool. And everyone knows that, but somehow some commission just keeps pushing that idea on us. So we need to just drop that plan because it won't work due to neighborhood pushback. However, the opportunity that is golden provided by Hartford Hospital right now to develop 184-200 Patricia Genova Drive is outstanding place to put a town pool and end that discussion so Mitch can get his pool built. It's a great space. It's 5 acres. It has direct access. It abuts the Cedar Street elevated roadway. Very little else could go in there. So this is a chance, since you're talking about $6 million in state bonds through Representative Turco and an additional grant of $3.5 million. you have more than enough money and even townspeople contributions to buy that space of 5 acres and put the town pool there. It complements the Constitutional Square band and weekend activities, especially in the summer. So that would be just a priority. There's so much talk in this town and very little action. You have an excellent chance right now to end these conversations about where and what and why. Put the town pool right there at 184-200. It's on LoopNet already, so you can see great pictures of it. Just Google LoopNet, Newington, Connecticut, and the property pictures come up. Take that parcel and run with it and get the town pool built there, and it'll bring more people. These developers that want to take best market, they're trying to generate foot traffic for the small Newington pizza shop and the other small sandwich shop down there and the little bar and the haircuttery. They need foot traffic and they need people there. And that development would be outstanding. So let them go forward with some retail mixed use. And, stop trying to develop the Mill Pond Park into some pool that no one wants. So you answer so many questions. The only frustration I have is there's always so much discussion and so much pushback that nothing ever gets done. So right now you have an outstanding chance to accomplish so much and let this new Democratic team get some home runs in their first year. So please build the pool on Genova Drive. Let these developers get that investment done. And let's put some foot traffic in downtown and start revitalizing that area. You need people, okay? So I appreciate your time and thank you again. Good night.
Thank you, Dr. Calais. Anyone else in here wishing to speak? Yes, Councilwoman Bedrejko.
Just really quick on the Lowry Place. I appreciate, one of the questions I had was the parking for the post office, because the post office is used by all the residents of Newington. It did look to me that it was going to be, they were going to lose those parking spaces, and the current the actual parking lot for the post office is just, it's dangerous. It's very dangerous, people pulling in and out. So hopefully some accommodation can be made for that. And then I think he also said 5 handicap spaces. 3?
There's a calculation that's done that the minimum required, so.
That to me is way too low
Yep.
for,
And as I said, with staff hasn't reviewed it. Again, it was a high level thing. Staff hasn't reviewed it. Again, with elderly housing, that is something that would have to be worked out. So I agree.
because a lot of people now have handicap stickers, including people who will be in the market rate. And then third, I don't know whether any of you remember, but wasn't there like an initiative before to have a look for the town center when they had the facades put on, like, it was the old Newington, I don't know, Newington Hardware, the bike shops, Market Square, to have kind of like this New Englandy feel.
There was an old facade program that was probably in the 90s. I don't remember for sure, yeah.
Might be, when you have these discussions about the look and feel of the town, because quite frankly, I wasn't impressed with the pictures of the cinder block apartment buildings. I mean, I wish that we could resurrect something to have a feel for our very small town center, to keep it sort of colonially, New Englandy, whatever. I mean, progress ahead, but have a unified look, because it's only like, 2 or 3 blocks worth of buildings, and it would be nice to have a unified look. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Bedrejko. Anybody online, Eric?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Rose.
Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. My head is spinning. I was waiting to hear what everyone had to say, and I agree with a lot of it, especially with Jen Rodriguez regarding the services and things like that. I also agree that we should keep the small town feel, but I also want to say that I want to thank the Open Space Committee for being proactive instead of reactive. I want to thank the TPZ for hearing this pre-application. I also want to thank the architect for giving me some ideas that I never thought about, some of the rebuttals and what the owner had to say. I know there's no back and forth, but I will say, like Mr. Tallard, I will be calling tomorrow to ask who the gentleman was that spoke before Counselor Plord and stood up because I could not hear what he was saying. It almost sounded like he had worked on the project and didn't want it to go forward the way it was, and he was just going to leave it, or he was a resident and wanted them to just leave it the way it was. I'm not sure. But that being said, like, there's been so much on Facebook being thrown out there with no discussion about what could go in at the Hartford Hospital property. I know that Commissioner Payne mentioned that it was public land, and there's only certain things that could go in there, and whatever was outside of that limitation would have to come before TPZ. But in the meantime, I'm hoping, I don't know whether this could even happen or not. It doesn't have to be at a formal TPZ meeting or a formal town council meeting, but that's the heart of our town. I don't care what anybody says. The Berlin Turnpike is not my cup of tea. My downtown area, not downtown, I would refer to it as my center, is where I grew up and where I probably, hopefully, will part from this town. But I know that there's an RFP out there for a consultant to work with the town, and it says for a master plan for Newington Center. Is there any way there could be an informational session with the town planner, with the town council, or whatever, just to put the truth out there and not just conjecture? I could be mistaken, but I thought I heard Dr. Calais mention putting the pool on the 5 acres that's up for sale on Patricia Genova Drive. The last I looked, it was almost 50 acres that's for sale up there. There's just so much, and Cedar Street has been in your agenda in one way or another for so many years, between the top of the mountain with the continuing care retirement communities, with the other end of Cedar Street with the affordable housing and the hotel and whatever. And I've often said, let's put the pieces together. Let's think about what's going on at the top of the mountain as well as down by Fen Road. Well, now we've got to think about what's happening right in the center of town. So if you can do something to calm the crowds, calm the residents, put the truth out there, I certainly would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Anyone else in here wishing to comment? Anybody online there?
No one else online has their hand raised right now, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you all for your participation. Remarks by commissioners. Commissioner Payne.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Payne here. A lot of what the residents are asking for are right here in our 2030 plan. It talks about the town center, it talks about the children's hospital property. It talks about everywhere in town. So I think if people want to read through that, it would be an asset. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Payne. Anybody else? Any other commissioners? Okay. My closing remarks, thank everybody for the commissioners and the public for their participation tonight. I look forward to moving everything along as quick as possible, yet also make sure that we don't jump the gun and put something in we're going to be sorry for. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is made, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all for coming.
Good night.